Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. It is Monday, April 13th. We are live. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We have had a very eventful weekend and had a variety of things that have happened over the past 24 hours. And we have not only so much to talk about, but so much to analyze in the context of price action today after the best 8-day stretch we've had since October 2025. So today is the first day since that stretch has ended, but technically it hasn't really ended because we haven't seen if we're going to go red for the day. Now, futures were red, and we are still red in the futures, 0.5% down in the S&P. Yes, Mystery Monday, I guess is the best way you could call it. But as you can see right there, there's some green candles coming in, and maybe those green candles are enough to reverse the trend that we had last night in the futures where things got ugly. But, you know, the ugliness kind of faded when we got through the rest of the future show last night. Palantir up 2.7%. Palantir had one of its worst weeks ever last week. We will talk more about Palantir. 131.60. That's up 2.7%. Software stocks still pretty much down from the worst software sector sell-off that we saw last week as well. Goldman Sachs had earnings. That stock's down 4%. Not really nice to see Goldman down 4%, especially because they beat on every metric. So I don't know why the street's taking it down so much, but we'll talk more about those numbers. We'll see if their guidance was any much of an impact, and then we'll keep going from there. TSM and Netflix have earnings this week, so we are officially back into big tech earnings. Netflix on Thursday, TSM on Wednesday. So we are going to get ready to see how these tech companies do, and obviously the guidance they give, the earnings outlook they give, all of that in conjunction with the macro overhang that we're dealing with, which is this war, will be some indication of where the markets can go as we head into Q1 2026. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Got a lot to talk about. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Hopefully, everyone had a great weekend. And this is the second week of April. So as we get into the second week of April, hopefully we can continue on to the green trend that we were on. So let's get started with the biggest news of the weekend, which obviously was this negotiation between Trump and Iran. And, you know, if you have not heard over the weekend, we do not have a deal, unfortunately. But there's a lot more nuance to just not having a deal that will require a decent amount of analysis. So let's get right into it. Random Hero Art says, I'm about to run a half a marathon while listening to you. That is cool. Usually when I run, I need music versus like podcast stuff. But if you're someone who can run with someone else talking in the background, it's very, very special. So super, super cool. Hope you enjoy the run while you are listening. All right, so let's get started. Let's get into it. Let's start off with what happened over the weekend. JD Vance, Saturday night, I went back home to my parents' house. I was sitting with them when this went live. And it was a pretty incredible moment to see the vice president basically say, we just couldn't get a deal.
We've been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement. And I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could. And they have chosen not to accept our terms.
Okay, so we couldn't get a deal with the Iranians. I think a lot of people here probably aren't that surprised. Obviously, the Iranians feel like they have a lot of leverage given the month-long Strait of Hormuz essentially holdup that they've created on oil prices. Crude right now is pumping in the pre-markets. We were at 104. We were at 92. At least we're down from 117. So it's still down from the highs of last week, but up 8% overnight is not necessarily the best. So what is the U.S. going to do about the fact that we essentially have no deal? Well, Trump came out on Sunday and clarified that we are putting on a blockade of our own near the Strait of Hormuz, which will essentially stop other ships from being able to transport.
So tell us what you're trying to accomplish with this blockade,
all in,
sir.
All out. Yep. It's called all in and all out. There'll be a time when we'll have them all come in and all come out, but it won't be a percentage. It won't be a friend of yours, like a country that's your ally or a country that's your friend. It's all or nothing. And that'll be, that won't be in too long a distance. No, we're just bringing the ships up. We got a lot of ships, so we're bringing them up. We think that numerous countries are going to be helping us with this also, but we're putting on a complete blockade. We're not going to let Iran make money on selling oil to people that they like and not people that they don't like, or whatever it is. It's going to be all or none, and that's the way it is. And it'll be you saw what we did with Venezuela. It'll be something very similar to that, but at a higher level.
So
Okay, so initially last night, futures were red because they did not like the idea of a blockade. However, we have had multiple updates over the past 24 hours that I think are very important to get into, because those updates kind of insinuate. Last night on the Future Show, I presented a bull case and a bear case to the idea of the blockade. And the optimistic scenario is that this is not as intense as people think, and it's a sort of bargaining chip to negotiate with Iran and get them to the table. The pessimistic way to think about it is that it's going to be very aggressive, and that the bombing campaign will be used as a catalyst if Iran doesn't necessarily flip their stance based on this naval blockade that'll be taking place. So what are some of the updates that happened overnight? First of all, U.S. military says blockade will be enforced in the Gulf of Oman and Arabian Sea east of the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. military says the blockade applies to all vessel traffic regardless of the flag. U.S. military says any vessel entering or departing the blockade area without authorization is subject to interception, diversion, and capture. So we're talking about ships from anywhere. Neutral vessels may still be subject to the right of visit and search to determine the presence of contraband cargo. The blockade will not impede neutral transit passage through the Strait of Hormuz to or from non-Iranian destinations, so some ships will be able to go through. And then humanitarian shipments, including food, medical supplies, and other essential goods, will be permitted, subject to inspection. So essentially, you could think about it as there is the sort of Iranian blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, not letting any ships go through. That's why traffic has been dying down, and that's why the price of oil has been skyrocketing. And then you have the U.S. blockade that is separate to that. The goal of it is to put pressure on ships either leaving or entering the Iranian ports, which would essentially be bad for the Iranians because they wouldn't be able to make any money or any tolls off the ships that are going through if they have to encounter a different blockade. I went and did some research overnight, and what Gemini at least has been able to give me in terms of intel on this is the last time we had a real blockade at scale, technically was Venezuela, but outside of Venezuela, Iraq. And that lasted for 13 years. I actually did not know this. Following Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, the U.S. laid a massive years-long naval blockade to enforce UN sanctions. And that lasted for 13 years. I hope this new blockade is not going to last necessarily for 13 years. But that was the last time we really had a full-scale blockade at a level that, had not only a tangible impact, but there was a lot of time on that blockade associated with the different UN nations that were part of it. Now, what else did Trump say this morning? According to Axios, Trump is considering resuming strikes if the naval blockade does not cause Iran to change their course. The targets could include critical infrastructure, as he talked about last week. U.S. official says the blockade is a part of ongoing negotiations, AKA this is part of this sort of ceasefire strategy, with the ceasefire is still technically in place, I think. And main gaps in 21-hour talks were over uranium enrichment freeze and the release of frozen Iranian funds, AKA J.D. Vance, Jared Kushner, and Steve Witkoff could not get the Iranians to give up their nuclear enrichment program. And that was the number one reason we weren't able to get a deal. Having said that, I think the reason why futures are not that ugly is because, as per Axios, Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey continue talks with the U.S. and Iran in coming days. They are saying a bridge is remaining, aka, quote, the door is not closed, it is a bazaar, as per a regional source. Which, this is one of the headlines I think a lot of people expected last night, which is why futures started recovering, which is the idea that none of these countries actually want multiple blockades across the Strait of Hormuz. That's just not going to be a good idea. And as a result of multiple blockades, you're going to have China that's going to be affected by this. You're going to have Pakistan, Turkey, Kuwait, India, all the Southeast Asian countries that are countries that get their oil or get the majority of their oil from that Strait of Hormuz. No one wants this to happen. And the whole goal of this from a, U.S. military perspective is to have more and more pressure on the Iranians without bombing them. If this doesn't work, you have multiple reports saying that Trump is going to get back to bombing them. But if you can avoid that by creating a blockade to create more pressure, then maybe there's a world in which they pivot. And quite frankly, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. No one knows. Time will tell. But S&P is down 0.4%. That is nothing. We had a 7% rally last week, or I should say since March 30th, so over the past 2 weeks on the S&P, 630 to 680. It's really not anything. If we go back to 670, 665, it would be annoying, but it's not something that's uncalled for given how much of a rally we've had if we give a little bit of it back. Now, if we go back to the March 30th lows because of this reason, it's possible, and that would be very annoying. But the idea that we're down 0.4%, and we'll see in 30 minutes when the market actually opens, it's almost like the market's saying, okay, like, yeah, Blockade's not the best. We're not happy about it, but we also don't think it's going to be the worst thing in the world. Once again, kind of ignoring these broader claims that the conflict is going to be escalating at an incredible level. And, time will tell to see if that happens. Now, Netanyahu from Israel is kind of happy that we're doing the blockade. So a couple quotes from him right here. Netanyahu in a government meeting, the ceasefire with Iran could end quickly. He spoke with Vance on Sunday after his departure from Pakistan. Israel supports Trump's blockade. Israel seeking deeper security zone in Lebanon. And the U.S. briefing on the Israel Daily was part of the Iranian negotiation. So you've got Israel that wants to get back to their bombing campaign on Lebanon, which might not be the best for the Iranians. Obviously, would hurt future negotiations. And if that continues along with this blockade, you have 2 acts of escalation that could easily get the Iranians to basically not budge on their stance or not even, want to have a second round of negotiations. And if that happens, then maybe the market's going to react more aggressively. But as of now, markets are not really that upset about it. But who knows? This is the overnight market. This is the futures pre-markets in 30 minutes when everyone actually starts playing the game. We'll see how it plays out. It's just not as ugly as I think a lot of people thought it would be yesterday when that initial no deal announcement came. And maybe because the market is pricing in a worst case scenario that's kind of already happened, and now de-escalation will take place, even though everything that's being shown in the media is like de-escalation is not happening. And we're going to see how this ultimately ends up playing out. S&P 500 right there, 0.47%. Software got crushed last week. We'll see if IGV gets a little bit of rebound. It's up slightly in the pre-markets. Palantir, once again, I think it's oversold from a software perspective. I don't think the software sell-off should be affecting companies like Palantir, CrowdStrike, Oracle. These are names that aren't that tied to the commoditization of Anthropic. But number 2 is if a war is continuing, technically that is bullish for Palantir as their software is going to be sold or can be perceived as being sold even more. So I wouldn't be surprised if Palantir gets a bit of a rebound here today just based off that war premium coming back, along with the fact that I think SaaS is oversold and maybe we get a bit of a rebound there. So that is what we got from the war updates. Let me put in the chat, what do people think? Are we going to stay red or do we flip green today? Earnings is starting this week. We're going to get to finally talk more about companies and not just politics. We'll start off with Goldman Sachs today. We'll get into those earnings in just a second, which I thought were pretty good. But the market is not necessarily on the same vibe. And yeah, do people think that this lack of negotiation, lack of a deal is going to result in a real detriment to the economy, or are we going to be able to recover from it? I think the futures are pricing in as it not being as big of a deal, which is fair. If you think that, it's not going to escalate to the point where there's direct military confrontation, which again, I don't think Trump really wants to do. But then again, maybe we are very early in how this conflict ends up playing out. So that's what we have right there for the war updates. The Saudis did come out this morning and said that they are getting back on schedule in terms of producing the amount of oil that they were expected to produce. So you do have, not every refinery is getting back to normal, but some refineries are, which was also a good piece of news. And in general, if you have oil at least stabilizing a little bit, even if it doesn't come down from 104, which is probably not going to come down to like the low 70s for a while, just because there's now years of oil supply that has been taken away, it still would be at least better than it continuing to spike at the level that it's spiking at. So that's what we got on the war update. Let's transition to earnings, and then we'll talk more about some of these tech updates. We got a lot of different AI headlines, Anthropic stuff, OpenAI headlines, all that good stuff. Let's just first get Goldman out of the way. Here were their earnings. They beat on the top and the bottom. Looks like guidance might have been the bigger issue for why the street is a bit upset.
Although Goldman Sachs beating on the top and bottom lines and delivering its second highest quarterly revenue and earnings, the firm's top line jumping about 14% year over year. That was led by a surge in investment banking fees as well as equities trading. Both of those businesses, guys, are housed in the firm's global banking and markets division, which posted record revenue. Completed mergers and acquisitions contributed to $1.5 billion to the top line, up about 89% year over year, while IPOs remain muted. Convertible offerings, they really bolstered the equity underwriting business by about 45%. The firm did say that its backlog declined slightly from last quarter. The volatility from the first 3 months of the year was a boon to Goldman's equity trading division, which gained 27%. And that helped offset some of the declines around trading in things like interest rates and mortgages and credit. That FIC group missed estimates by nearly $1 billion. Asset and wealth management fell a little short as well. Assets under supervision were at a record $3.65 trillion, which boosted management fees by 14%. Headcount at the firm was unchanged from the end of last year, but total operating expenses jumped about 14%, which the firm says is due to better operating performance. In the statement, CEO David Solomon describing the geopolitical landscape as, quote, very complex, and we'll, of course, be listening in for more color from him when that analyst call begins in about 2 hours' time, guys.
So Goldman crushed it. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, guidance was off by a little, but not sure why the street is that upset. You've got your buybacks, you've got your dividends, you've got beats and raises across revenue, EPS, equities, very slight misses in smaller parts of the business that I don't think are as relevant to what the street's thinking about. But it was a good quarter. So I'm going to have to do a little bit more digging right here and say exactly what they got wrong or what the street is upset about, because that would give us a signal on what's going on with Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, all those companies that will be reporting later this week. Again, tech earnings starting this week, bank earnings starting this week. You have airlines starting this week. Goldman down 4% right here. But there's nothing that we saw that was like, oh my goodness, there's cracks in the economy, or there's cracks in the context of private credit that Goldman is uniquely exposed to in some meaningful way. So I don't know. This one's a little weird, down 4% right here, but also just might be sentiment in general about the war that's kind of hurting all stocks and not really giving them the potential to get that big move to the upside. Goldman right there down about 4%. Fixed income did miss bad. That's fair. It's just if that was the only miss and the street really cares about that the most, then that's definitely a signal that these other banks, definitely better not have a ugly fixed income quarter. It is down 10% year over year. Investment banking's up 50% year over year. We're talking about 50% growth is incredible. EPS is up 25. I mean, they're growing earnings 20. So even with missing on fixed income, for them to grow, I mean, there are tech companies that are not growing EPS 25% year over year. So I guess if that's what the street cares about, that's what they care about. And then we'll see how it impacts the other financial institutions that will be reporting later this week as well. All right, so that's what we had in the context of Goldman. That was the main high-profile earnings today. Let's get into a bunch of different macro updates that we have as well, a couple different charts and stuff that's really important. Real quick, this is what Trump said last night when he came back from Joint Base Andrews, when he came back from Mar-a-Lago, about the Iran war as well.
The other night, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Oh, I don't know. I don't care if they come back or not. If they don't come back, I'm fine. Their military is gone. Their missiles are largely depleted. The manufacturing capability for missiles and drones is largely defeated. We've been very nice. We haven't ripped down too many bridges. We did one only because they broke their word. They broke their promise. And remember, their promise was that they were going to open the Hormuz Strait. They didn't do it. They lied.
Trump did tweet this morning as well that the blockade will be officially starting today. So early this morning, I believe at around 10 a.m. So, I mean, we will find out how aggressive that blockade ultimately becomes if it does end up starting later this morning. All right, so the tech news. We got a bunch of different companies to talk about. First of all, Microsoft getting a little bit of a boost right there pre-market. Very small candle, but it's coming in. Microsoft right here, the core headline that we've got going on is that they are introducing new features in Copilot, as per the information, inspired by OpenClaw. I think it's taken them a while to embrace this. NVIDIA, the funny thing about NVIDIA is that OpenClaw came out, and I think it was like 2.5 weeks before GTC, and NVIDIA literally framed GTC around OpenClaw. And they called it NemoClaw with their open source models. But like they realized that, Jensen called it the iPhone moment for agents, which some people agree with, some people don't. But they really quickly embraced it. OpenAI bought the OpenClaw founder out essentially and made him part of the team, I think a couple of weeks after the project went viral. So it makes sense for Copilot to have more agentic OpenClaw-esque types of features. I wonder if that's going to be enough to really get the street excited about Microsoft. You had Barclays came out and reiterated their $641 target on Microsoft, and it was Bernstein, outperformed 641. And the title of their note this morning was, could the bear case in fact be the bull case on Microsoft? And reading a little bit from the note. There's a concern that AI is not good for Microsoft. In today's note, we discussed this bear case and the ways that Microsoft could be allocating CapEx, showing that the most likely scenario is that Microsoft is most likely increasing capacity, investing more in first-party apps, and using more capacity for training models that don't impact their R&D margins. Essentially, they go on to say that Azure is the growth story that investors should care about, and that Copilot and the software growth, although it's not as strong as Azure, should not be the reason why this stock is discounted, now trading at basically 20 times future earnings, which I would agree with. I just think there's some other Mag 7 buys that are also very attractive, but the entirety of the Mag 7 is getting discounted pretty hard. Obviously, Microsoft, part of IGV, the software names getting hit as well. So, there's a world in which that might be what Satya needs to do to get the street to feel more confident about the ability for Copilot to grow at a meaningful scale. It's just we're going to need to see those earnings for the market to give it any level of respect or actually take it seriously. Then you also had a headline this morning from CNBC. OpenAI is touting their Amazon alliance in a memo. They say Microsoft has limited our ability to reach clients. I don't think they are saying this in a way that's like bearish Microsoft. The broader argument from this headline is more around the idea that they need to expand into different domains. So OpenAI revenue chief Denise Drescher sent a memo to staffers on Sunday touting the company's partnership with Amazon as a key way it will expand its enterprise market share. Why? Because AWS is really big and Azure has been great for them. But if they want to expand, they probably need different channels of distribution. AWS is one of those. The memo viewed by CNBC comes less than 2 months after Amazon announced its plans to invest up to $50 billion in OpenAI, and Dresser's comments point to the artificial intelligence company's ongoing effort to reduce its reliance on Microsoft. So this was not bearish Microsoft, or this is not super bullish Amazon. This is more so a company, OpenAI, that's worth $800 billion, and it's trying to diversify the level of reach it has in the enterprise. Why is it doing that? Because Anthropic is absolutely crushing in the enterprise. And Anthropic actually in the perpetual futures market is now trading at a higher valuation than OpenAI, which makes sense given they went from 11 billion to 30 in a single month of revenue run rate. So, I mean, from that perspective, it's not crazy to see OpenAI essentially say that, we need to start working on the enterprise in a lot more aggressive fashion. But it is interesting to see the hyperscalers that are affected by that. Microsoft, again, has been one of their biggest partners. They have a $220 billion stake. And Amazon, which still has a lot of money they can dilute shareholders with by tapping that ATM and dumping shares on anyone who's willing to buy them, has invested $50 billion into OpenAI. And so obviously they would want a long-term commitment for them to use AWS if they're investing $50 billion into OpenAI itself. So that's what we got with Microsoft, Amazon, and OpenAI. We'll talk more about Anthropic. You guys are saying SoFi has Galileo news. SoFi is down 1%. I have not seen the Galileo news, but I will look it up real quick and see if it's relevant in any meaningful way. The thing about Galileo that I think has been more annoying than not is just the growth rate on it, right? Like that's been the biggest issue for SoFi to convince the street that they should get that fintech multiple. But, banking itself has been good. Galileo enables SoFi to send and receive FedNow service payments. Yeah, I don't know if the street's going to care about this. Just being dead honest, dude. I don't know how much the street's going to give a shit about this. It's like, it's cool, I guess. Most banks that use FedNow service only support and receive capabilities. SoFi is going further by allowing members to both send and receive FedNow service payments. Galileo provides a technology connection to the service. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, it just doesn't matter. We've really got to get that growth rate closer to 25-30% on Galileo. Right now, it's just not there. And the reason I'm saying that it doesn't matter is because until you change the narrative on SoFi, right now they're seen as just a bank with bad credit, which is not true. I mean, their credit underwriting is better than most banks that's out there. And I think their delinquencies peaked in March of 2024. But, the narrative on banks is not the best. I mean, if Goldman Sachs gets a 4% hit after growing EPS 25%, Galileo headline's not going to pump SoFi. At least not in the current moment. But that's the headline you got on SoFi. Goldman down about 4%. SoFi down about 1% in the pre-market. Okay, let's look at some more macro stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit about Anthropic. So first of all, I thought this was pretty interesting. Maybe a little bit of a bull signal. The term buy stocks on Google Trends is at a 5-year low. So if you just type in buying stocks on Google and, the level of interest that people have to buy stocks, because in general, When stocks go up or when Bitcoin goes up, people want to buy them because they want to make money. That's usually when we are a bit too euphoric. We're at a 5-year low. I mean, so, I don't think this is necessarily a bear market, but in terms of level of interest and excitement, and we looked at all the retail data in March, I once again will say March was not a buy the dip month like it was last year, where people just didn't believe in Trump's threats on Liberation Day. This is more people are scared. People are conservative. People are putting cash on the sidelines. People want confirmation that we're not going to be in a 10-year war with Iran before they start deploying equities. To me, this is bullish that the level of fear that is out there, or not level of fear, but level of, I guess, let's just say, lack of interest in regards to the amount of excitement people have over buying stocks. It's a good thing that it's at a 5-year low because it likely means that we're not in euphoria. And given where the S&P is trading, we're not in euphoria. And then to follow that up, take a look at this. This is from Goldman Sachs. This came out on Friday. U.S. tech funds saw the largest number of selling in more than 5 years, the second largest in percentage terms behind September 2024, driven by short sales and to a much extent, long sales. Nearly all tech subsectors were net sold on the week, led by selling in software, which made up to 60% of the total net selling. Obviously, software had a bloody Thursday and Friday. Software stocks now make up just 1.4% of total U.S. net exposure versus 7% at the start of the year. You're talking about a structural de-risking because of the fears of Anthropic, most likely, that have led to these funds getting rid of their stocks, both of which essentially fallen back to the record lows that we saw in late February. This also, I think, is bullish. As bearish as it is to see this aggressive sell-off in not just software, but tech in general, it means that multiples are a lot more reasonable. And, there are still people that are saying CrowdStrike and ServiceNow and all these companies are overvalued, but they're definitely not as quote-unquote overvalued as they were when they were trading at the highs just a few months ago. So, I mean, it's nice to see a bit of a retracement, and that retracement is also really important. Another piece of data to kind of back up why I think this is bullish is because what happens when stocks go down at the highest level, especially inside of the tech sector, which has had the greatest bull market over the past 10 years? Well, theoretically, you would see more insiders buy their stock. And if you take a look at this chart right here on XLK, this tracks corporate insider buys. We've had the highest level of CEO, or not CEO, but corporate insider buying. A lot of this has been CEOs, but it could be C-suites, CFOs, CTOs, et cetera, that have been buying their stocks. I bullish, right? Now, that doesn't mean that because Bill McDermott buys OpenClaw, ServiceNow at $104 that it's a good buy because he's down 30%. But the point is he's buying. Mark Benioff is buying. Like, these guys are trying to put more money back into their companies because they're thinking the sell-off is exaggerated. And, that's not the worst thing in the world. What if SAS is just getting re-rated right now? Well, I think the re-rating has happened on SAS. It's definitely happened. The question is, how legit is the re-rating? And I don't know. I think everyone's going to have to take their own pick right here. I think there are two names in particular that shouldn't be re-rated to the level they're re-rated at right now, Oracle and Palantir. I'll have more research, probably put out a one-pager on Oracle. I did buy on Friday. I think the stock should not be down at these levels just because they have a legacy software business and they're being classified as SaaS. Palantir is the fastest growing software company in SaaS. And then they have the best margins. They're going to grow 80%. I really don't think they should be put at this level. But there's other names that, the street is a bit more doubtful on. There's two names I'm looking at in the software space that I also think are a bit disrespected, have not put out a ton of research on them, but I did start looking on Saturday. Fastly, this stock was down 30% last week. It was down 21% on Friday. This is a CDN, content delivery network, that essentially, if you have more agents, you should have more demand for content delivery. So to me, it's not traditional software, and they're growing. So it's one of it is up 100% year to date, though. So obviously, a lot of these stocks have made a move, but they are getting a bit of retracement. And then IoT, which I'm very early on doing research, but this one also doesn't feel like a traditional SaaS name that is going to get commoditized as easily from Anthropic. And so I think there are some names out there that, obviously, I think Zeta is not getting eaten up by Anthropic. I think a lot of people have done the due diligence on this $3.5 billion company. Probably should get a re-rating on a multiple to the upside, but it's part of the SaaS complex. If you're part of the SaaS complex, you're getting hit, which is not the best. The reason they're getting hit, though, is because of Anthropic. Here's Brad Gerstner on the All In podcast basically explaining why Anthropic is eating everybody's lunch.
They added $4 billion of revenue in January, $7 billion in February, $11 billion of annualized run rates, or 10 or 11 billion in March. Just to put in perspective, that's Databricks plus Palantir combined that they added in a single month, right? So we started with everybody at the start of the year wringing their hands, including, Gurley and others saying we're in a big bubble, asking whether the AI revenues would show up to justify all of this investment. And bam, you have the largest revenue explosion in the history of technology. So the company's plans were to end the year at about a $30 billion exit run rate. They got there by the end of March, right? And I suspect that it's continuing in April. So you have to ask what's going on and what's the big so what. The first thing for me is that model and product capability just hit this threshold we talked about earlier, near AGI, whatever the hell you want to call it. And everybody, like Altimeter, said, damn, this is so good, I have to have it. This is no longer about my IT budget. This is about labor augmentation and labor replacement. And by the way, co-work is growing even faster than Claude Code at the same stage of development. So what it showed is we have a near infinite TAM. It turns out that the TAM for intelligence is radically different than anything that we've seen before. And I think the best example of this, right? This is millions of self-interested parties, consumers, enterprises, 1,000 now over $1 million, right? It's not that there was some great go-to-market in Anthropic that all of a sudden, they snuck up and blew everybody away. No, it was companies demanding the product. They're getting throttled on the product. Why? Because it's so good, it makes them better at their business. We are all self-interested actors. And when millions of those people are all making the same decision, there's a huge tell. And the tell here is that the TAM is as big as Dario and Sam and others have been saying.
Gerstner thinks they can get to 100 billion in ARR by the end of the year. And, currently they're at 30 billion? They were at 19 a month ago. So it is very exciting when you think about those growth rates. For everyone who's asking, how do I get exposure? Amazon and Google, I think both own a 10 to 15% stake. So that's kind of the easiest way to get exposure. There are some other companies out there in the public markets like Zoom that have, and Workhorse that have exposure. But the simple bets are just Amazon and Google. The point is these private markets have exploded in terms of valuation because of the growth. You're like seeing real growth attached to the valuation. So when they go public, there's no doubt in my mind, Anthropic's going to go public at more than $1 trillion, especially if they keep up this growth rate. And I think the fear on SaaS is, okay, if Anthropic's growing, 30 billion to 100 billion in a couple months, and all these software companies can barely do a couple billion extra in revenue per year, why are we not taking a bigger bet on AI infrastructure, on semiconductors, on Anthropic, OpenAI, even if we have to pay an inflated valuation in the private markets? Why are we still betting on Salesforce and Adobe? And the broader argument here is that, and this is what Jensen's response was to the question that I asked him at GTC. His argument is that these software companies are going to be turbocharged by the LLMs, and they're going to now have agents as a service versus software as a service. It will expand the capacity and the TAM for the seats that they will be able to sell, if they even sell seats anymore. And it will make their employees more productive, and they probably will be able to reduce headcount by not needing as much of a bloated workforce that some of these companies have. Anthropic, by the way, 2,500 employees. 2,500. They're going to be doing 100 billion in revenue, or call it at least 50 billion in revenue by the end of the year. On 125, the revenue per employee is going to be the greatest we've seen in history on a company like Anthropic. So it then just begs the question, okay, based on all the selling we've seen on SaaS, and take a look at IGV, this was Friday, look at the volume profile. It's the highest volume you've seen in over 2 years when you stretch it out back on the sell side. Is that enough capitulation for people to come in and say, all right, we're going to give this a bottom because the SaaS stocks are not going to die because of Anthropic, they're only going to be turbocharged? Or does it flip the opposite and say, you know what, you have to pick and choose the best SaaS stock that you like, but you have to be very selective here, because there are names that maybe they don't die, but their TAM potentially dies down, and then as a result their growth rates die down, and the discount rate you put on their future cash flows goes up, and you get to a stock price that is significantly lower than what it is today, even though these names are down 40 to 50%. And that's going to be the big question over the next over the coming days. Nick says Claude is a game changer. I know zero about coding and made 2 functioning apps this weekend. Yeah, dude, the premium to being a good coder, and I'm not a software engineer, and I'm sure some of you guys are software engineers in the chat, and so you understand how relevant and valuable it is to be able to effectively code and be an engineer at a company that is able to ship products. But man, the premium to just say, I have an idea, I feel like thinking of of seeing what the idea would look like, and then just typing into an LLM, hey, I have this idea, here's what I want it to look, and then it just happens in front of you. I mean, it really makes you wonder where the hell is the world going and how much value should be associated with something that was deemed as one of the most important professions a couple of years ago, which is going into computer science. And that right there is a different sort of paradigm in terms of how tech is thinking of the broader markets, or how the markets are perceiving where technology is going, which is why I think Anthropic is getting a premium and the SaaS companies are getting discounted. S&P 500 right there, down 0.4%. Now, the easiest way to solve this is these tech companies just have to, these software companies just have to come out in 40 days and crush earnings. And I believe Carp is going to do that. I really think Palantir is going to demolish earnings. And we have all the evidence in the world to see how much they've been growing. So when they do that, I think the market's going to once again realize, oh yeah, yes, they're a software company, but just because they sell software does not mean they are subject to complete commoditization in the way that some of these legacy software companies are being hit. Now, if we also get a deal with Iran, that will also help all the software names probably get a little bit of a bounce, but we just don't know if that's going to be happening anytime soon. This was another thing I thought was pretty cool today from the Wall Street Journal. Meta is expected by 2027 to surpass Google in global net ad revenue. So kind of crazy, because this is the first time ever that Meta is going to be actually doing more revenue than Google. It'll be the largest digital advertising company. And the reason Meta has been discounted so much is because they are only doing advertising, although their new model, which I tried over the weekend, is now #2 on the App Store. So it has been growing quite nicely, and you're seeing a lot of that momentum there. But the Street wants a model. The Street wants consumer applications built on the model. The Street wants that model to be able to show that their CapEx that they're spending is not just going into ads, but the ad business itself is amazing. And it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. Amit, my barber this weekend, says, I bought Palantir this week. Did that actually happening, or are you joking? To be honest, that's not that bearish. I know it's bearish when people say, oh, like if a taxi driver says they bought NVIDIA, that's bearish. But Palantir's down a lot. So it's not like he's buying it at 200. So hopefully that's not as bearish. I swear that happened. Okay, well, there you go. He bought the dip. I bought the dip too. So next time you see him, you can let him know that I was with him buying that dip. Morgan Stanley's Mike Wilson, he came out today as well and said that, he said you should buy the dip, and we're likely to see a V-shaped recovery right here. He says, from our perspective, the correction began last October with the S&P 500's forward PE declining 18% from its peak, an outcome that typically coincides with a recession and or an actively tightening Fed. We have neither in our base case. Beneath the surface, more than half of the stocks in the Russell 3000 have dropped 20% or more. That's a big fact, by the way. The Russell 3000 is basically the Russell 2000, so all the small caps, and then the Russell 1000, which are like your large caps, your mega caps, your mid caps, all together. So if you are a stock that has any level of relevancy, you are in the Russell 3000. Half of the stocks, more than half, more than 50% of those 3,000 stocks are down 20% or more. That's either bear market or an opportunity. And if it's not bear market because we're not recession, S&P is not down 20%, earnings are still growing, which is the most important thing. Earnings expectations to grow are up 4% from January to 323 share on the S&P by the end of the year. Then to me, that's more opportunity, right? And so you got Morgan Stanley saying to us, that's not complacency, but a market that is appropriately discounted the risks. And as a result of those risks being discounted, you have to be a stock picker and pick the best stocks that are there. But that doesn't mean that every stock you pick is going to blow up in front of you like it was in 2022, because we're not seeing declining earnings. So technically, yeah, we've been in a quote unquote bear market since October, even though we haven't had like a real 20% decline. But the complacency of the market not making a move higher has been real. And that just means we're probably in a better coiled spring spot to jump if we get some good macro headlines. Now, technically, not every stock has been bear. I mean, Marvell, that's up another 4% today. This thing was $90 a couple weeks ago. It's at 132. Got another upgrade today to 150. You got Fastly, that's up 100% year to date. You've got Amcor, that's up 50% this year. There was a new headline with them and TSM expanding their partnership this morning. TSM will have earnings in a couple of days. Their March numbers were amazing on Friday. So you got Amcor, look at that, from $40 all the way to 57. It was at 40 on March 30th, by the way. So March 30th so far is the unofficial bottom. We'll see if that ends up becoming the official bottom. But you've had a lot of names that have had a big move. APLD, Cypher, TeraWolf, Nebius. I mean, this has been the massive NeoCloud winner at 142. Got to 146 on Friday, barely down in the pre-markets. I mean, it feels like this one has been re-rated and it might not be able to easily see the hundreds like it used to go back and forth over the past couple months. You've got Cadence, Synopsys. You got a lot of names that have made a hell of a move that are absolutely not in the bear market. Lumentum, Coherent, all your photonics plays. But then you have your laggards, which are FinTech, SaaS, and the Mag 7. And you just have to be a bit more selective this year to kind of position yourself to take advantage of the, I would say, AI infrastructure / neocloud / AI supply chain bottleneck plays that have essentially captured the market's attention, regardless of what's been happening with oil. SanDisk, Micron, yup, all those names that have been massive winners. SanDisk right there up about 1.62% in the pre-market. By the way, just putting this out there for everybody. So tomorrow is NVIDIA's Quantum Day. I found out about that last night. So I don't know if your D-Wave, your Rigettis, your IONQs are going to catch any level of a bid if Jensen goes up on stage and says something bullish about quantum. But tomorrow, April 14th, NVIDIA is doing some massive live stream about quantum. Maybe there's a trade just based on the idea that NVIDIA pumps up the quantum sector. These stocks have absolutely been in a bear market, down 50%, most of them from the highs of January. So maybe NVIDIA comes out and gives them a little move. Bitmine bought 71,000 ETH. Okay, BMNR continues to buy ETH. 21.28, down about 2% in the pre-market. Where was I mean, dude, like the fact that BTC is kind of pushing 72 right here, 71.2 right now, and we had no ceasefire, or we had no negotiation on the ceasefire, no deal. It doesn't feel as bearish, right? You would think like, oh, no deal, we're going back into World War III, everything should be down. It's like, well, that's not happening. So once again, the market, which is the greatest aggregator of information in the world, gold, by the way, flat, silver down 2%, is saying that we kind of don't think this Navy blockade or the lack of negotiations are really going to be that big of a deal. I think they're looking to the future. In the future, maybe there's something a bit more optimistic. The Qatari foreign minister says the prime minister and foreign minister expressed to Iran the necessity for the parties to respond to the mediation to resolve the crisis peacefully. I would imagine the Qataris, the Turks, the Pakistanis, they would all want to get a deal as quick as possible, which, you know, the market seems to be trying to get as well. This is the Strait of Hormuz outbound transits. As you can see right here, it has been pretty bad since the beginning of March. It likely will get worse with the new Navy blockade from the U.S., which Trump said at 10 a.m. will go live. And we'll see how much of an impact that officially has on oil prices. Yeah, the politicians are buying like crazy as well. I mean, we talked about it on Friday, but politicians are buying. And I mean, ironically, there's a lot of politicians, Democrat and Republicans, that bought Palantir over the past month. So, you know, you did get that Trump pump on Palantir last Thursday. We'll see if it has any level of hold, if it has any chance to hold right here. But he put the ticker. I mean, obviously, he was trying to pump it. He put the ticker in there. These are all the politicians that bought it. Now we just got to see if it holds. We got to see if it holds. We have about 2 minutes, 1 minute until the market opens. Palantir right there, up about 2%. So we're looking at software today. We're looking at AI infrastructure today. We are looking at your Oracles, your CrowdStrikes of the world. We're obviously looking at the broader S&P. We should be looking at airlines, cruise lines. Let's see how much they get affected by the oil stocks or by the price of oil rising. We're looking at your Chevrons, your VGs that are up 7-8%. And we're keeping an eye on all that stuff. VG actually now only up 2%. It was up 7% last night. Put in the chat if you bought anything already, if you're planning to make a trade, if you have any ideas going into this. And let's get ready to open this markets and see what we've got going on. 20 seconds. 20 seconds of peace and tranquility and soberness and just quietness before we bring in the one and only thing that will actually wake your ass up. Ladies and gentlemen, the stock market is now open. All right, wake your asses up. Let's get into it. S&P 677.58. We are not green, but we are not as red as we were last night. Palantir loses 130. 130 was a pre-market high. 132 about 129.34 or 131.50. Let's see if we can get back above that 130 level. 129.38. 4 million shares of volume already on Palantir, as that one is green. SanDisk up another 3%. My goodness. That one's green. Zeta's green. IoT is green. Marvell loses its pump. Marvell was pushing 135 back down to 130. Amcor's flat. Nebius is about to go green. That's incredible. Nebius not losing. Nebius, there you go. 145 goes green. CoreWeave also goes green. CoreWeave had a 14% day on Friday. How about Iren? Iren is down 2%, but CoreWeave and Nebius are green. S&P very close to going green. Celsius down 2. Micron close to going green. Palo Alto close to going green. Snowflake's up. AMD is up. Rubrik is up. Adobe is up. Okay, so it looks like the majority of SaaS names are catching, even if it's a sympathy bounce. A bounce. The only SaaS name that's red is Datadog. Snowflake, Adobe, Mongo, Atlassian, CrowdStrike, Zscaler, Intuit, Twilio, Cloudflare, which was down 25% last week. Like, it felt a little aggressive. That's up 3.2%. Mongo's up. Palantir trying to get back to 130, 129.50. So software is up. Semis are red, except Intel, which I feel like is stock of the year at this point, given how doubted it was. Look at that, 63.28. AMD 246, NVIDIA barely down. Broadcom barely down. Broadcom, by the way, Broadcom's forward PE is 20. So, for everyone saying Broadcom is super overvalued, I mean, the forward PE is not that, no, it's not. Unless I read it wrong. Broadcom is not that crazy expensive when you go out a little bit. ARM right there, 148. Dell at 180. Micron at 417. Did Tesla go green? Tesla is greeny green, 349. That is trying to go green. Where is AMAT? Applied Materials, that one's also red. So maybe a little bit of a semi-sell-off, software go long today. On Friday, it was obviously short software go long semis, and you're seeing a bit of a reversal potentially today. Marvell, that's back to 130. Nebius, 146.25. That's green. GE Veranova, look at that. That's 1,000. Is that all-time highs? I think that is. That is all-time highs, folks. Unbelievable. 1,003, $269 billion market cap. That stock year to date is not in a bear market. 47%. There have been a lot of these names. AI infrastructure. Corning is another one that has just won this year. And it's won aggressively compared to a lot of the sectors that have not been in favor. 171 on Corning, as that is also green. KLAC, that's green. There you go. 1744. That's up 0.24%. CoreWeave still up 105. Iren's the only NeoCloud that not getting some love right here in terms of the big three. Iren, CoreWeave, and Nebius. Cipher also not getting some love. That's a smaller one, but that's not making it. And then TeraWulf also is red after those were green. ALMU, this company is a very small company. $250 million market cap. They're up 32%. They got a deal this morning. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, they are a photonics play. More and more of these photonics plays are getting more love. They might not be like a full-on photonics play, but they secured a $4 million U.S. government contract to advance its semiconductor manufacturing for quantum and high-speed datacom applications. The funding is supporting their work on quantum lasers and quantum nonlinear materials with manufacturing partnerships, including with TSEM, Taiwan, Tower Semiconductor. That stock down about 1%. And so that's also getting some love, but it is a smaller name. Credo got an upgrade this morning. That upgrade is why that stock's at 130 or getting ready to push 130. But Credo got that upgrade. A lot of your networking plays, Arista, A-Lab, etc., those have also started to do well and get a little bit more momentum. AMD, are we still pushing 250, 245? She's trying. AppLovin. This one got discounted pretty hard last week as well. Went from 450 to 390 back to 400. That's up 2.4%. Nebius also did get an upgrade to 205. I think it's from Goldman, 205, from 150 to 205. And they got another one from 107 to 150. So, I mean, this thing could, it just feels like it's getting re-rated, and maybe 130, 125 is the floor. And it doesn't have to be stuck kind of oscillating between 90 and 110. SMCI, that's down 2%. Google, flat. Meta, basically flat. Pakistani Prime Minister says, I'm trying to resolve some issues between the U.S. and Iran. That would be nice if they can do that. And I think the market, quite frankly, believes that they're going to be able to do that, because we are not seeing a ton of red, folks. Look at the S&P. There's nothing. $2. Are you kidding me? After no deal from 21 hours of negotiating, you would think it would be a lot worse. It's not. This is similar to when we saw the Israel attacking Lebanon headlines last week, which you would think would violate the ceasefire. The market didn't even budge. They were like, yeah, we just don't think that's going to stop anything. And maybe that's bullish. Do we get a 10 a.m. Hormuz Strait dump? So the U.S. Navy blockade is officially starting at 10 a.m. I'm sure we'll get more details. I think Trump will probably do a press conference eventually and explain more details on how exactly this is happening. But, I mean, the news is out there. It was out there by Sunday morning. So if the street's not going to react to it, then, maybe we don't have to be too upset. Nebius, 147.50. 147.50. That's green. Poet as well. That's moving. Look at that. Up 6% on the day, 747. LWLG is another photonics play that's been getting some love. That hit $12. It's up 8%. It's up 100% in the past month. A lot of these very, very small elements of the broader AI supply chain have been moving. Oracle, 140. Not too bad. Bought this at 138 on Friday. I would really love if they give it in the low 100s. I don't think that'll happen. That would require, IGV to take it probably another 10% haircut, but this one doesn't make sense. Like, it was aggressive at 350. It is not aggressive at 140. I think a lot of it's de-risked, but OpenAI ultimately has to come through on their RPO obligations, and we'll find out over the coming quarters if Oracle is able to capitalize on that RPO. And same thing with Microsoft, which also is getting a decent amount of RPO from OpenAI. CrowdStrike right there, that's up 2%. ServiceNow up 2%. Salesforce up 1%. The VIX is up 7%. Is the VIX actually up 7%? Because the fact that the S&P hasn't budged. Wow, the VIX is up 7% and the S&P has not budged. Well, now you're seeing a little bit more red on the, but still 0.4% down is not that ugly. I guess you have pockets of volatility across the entire market that are being affected by the VIX, but the broader market's not. SanDisk going for 900, folks, 3.5%. What about space? Let's look at space. Rocket Lab reiterated their upgrade to $85 from Cantor Fitzgerald this morning. So Rocket Lab, that's down right here, but they did get a continuation of the upgrades that they got. ASTS, how's that doing? That is flat. What about Lunar? That's also flat. You've got a lot of your space names not really making a move. They did have somewhat of a move last week, then gave back some of that love. Nebius 148. Maybe that 150 is more achievable today. Air Test Systems up another 5%. Another small cap name that is making a move. Let's make the space playlist real quick, because I don't think we have one. So let's add all of our space names to this. So we have Rocket Lab, we have ASTS, we have Lunar, we have Fly. What else is there in space? Eventually, what's the ticker going to be on SpaceX? That is a very important question. Redwire, Saidu, Planet Labs, all of them are down. Firefly is the only one that's up a little bit on the day. Black Sky, I know I called it playlist. It's technically watch list, but it is what it is. SATL. What's EchoStar? SATS, which I still don't know how they got into the S&P. They're not profitable. I know they have the SpaceX stake, but still, like, I don't think Virgin Galactic deserves to be on this list. You guys can tell me if it does, but I think it's disrespectful to put Virgin Galactic on that list. Like, we're trying to get a sense of the space industry, not these random pump and dumps from 2021 when we look at that. Snapchat right there, 480. S&P coming back, some green candles, 677. Making its move right there. CoreWeave, 6%. Wow. I think part of the reason the CoreWeaves and the Nebuses have done as well as they're doing is because those Anthropic numbers are just, and then Meta getting #2 on the App Store in a couple of days. And everyone has their own LLM, right? People have downloaded multiple of them. So do we really need another one? Well, people are willing to try more stuff, which means more compute, more data, more demand. Like, all of this is just signaling the CoreWeaves, the Nebuses, the Irens, the Ciphers, the Wolves just have a long runway of growth, even if it's not profitable growth, which is the dispute around the NeoCloud business model, but growth nonetheless. 148.87 on Nebius. Let me check the resistance at 150 on this one. I strongly believe a Nebius Anthropic deal is coming soon. Dude, any of the NeoClouds that partner with Anthropic, not Amazon, not Google, not Meta, Anthropic, I feel like that's a 15% gap up the day they announce it. Because Anthropic's the hottest. I mean, people will just buy it for the hell of the association with Anthropic at that point. And so whatever NeoCloud gets it might end up really benefiting. 150 has 40,000 shares. 40,000 shares on the resistance level for Nebius. BMNR, that's down 2. Bitcoin, 70.9. Palantir, back above 130. Nice to see. At least we got some of the bleeding to stop. Oracle actually making a nice little move right here, 142. I think Oracle is also lagging the other NeoClouds. When you think about it, Oracle is the ultimate NeoCloud. They have the most amount of commitments They have 5x the amount of commitments that CoreWeave has, and CoreWeave has $90 billion in revenue backlog commitments. But Oracle is down 30% this year compared to CoreWeave and Nebius and the other ones. So I do think if you're long the neoclouds, Oracle's got to be at least part of that bucket. That one right there, 142 up 4%. SanDisk 882. You're getting some love. S&P 677. How much Anthropic does NVIDIA own? I actually don't know. They invested $10 billion in the recent round. I'm sure they invested in prior rounds. Let's see if we can find that stat, but I don't think it's more than the Amazons or the Googles of the world. Meta right there, 627. Tesla, did we flip red? We flipped red. Tesla's kind of consolidating in this 340 range. Tesla has earnings, by the way, next week. So this might be the 5th quarter in the row of no earnings growth. It's been, sorry, not 5th quarter. It'd be like 15th quarter. It's been years since Tesla's been able to grow earnings. But Elon's once again got to paint a picture about FSD, which, by the way, got approved in the Netherlands on Friday. So that's good. You're getting more full self-driving across Europe. But he's got to paint the picture of that and Optimus as like kind of the core argument for, why people should be buying the stock. And we're hopefully going to see that next week. Microsoft, after that OpenClaw potential collaboration with Copilot, is barely up, but at least it's up 371. Again, IGV kind of killing Microsoft right here, but you're getting a little bit of bounce on software, which is not the worst thing. Nebius, she's going for it. She's got 50,000 shares and 50 cents between a very strong psychological level, which is 150. And maybe that one ends up getting there today. OpenAI says Cloudflare is expanding access to OpenAI frontier models. So you got OpenAI Cloudflare collaboration this morning. SMCI introduced a compact energy efficient system to accelerate the adoption of intelligence AI. SMCI right there still down 2% on the day. Not sure why Poet's pumping. I think it's with the broader photonics plays. I mean, Poet is still a small company. It's $1 billion. So LWLG, AAOI, Poet, these are all kind of not exactly in the same bucket, but kind of in the same bucket. And so I think that broader momentum is probably taking them all up and getting some love. Nebius, she's trying. She is trying. Lemonade's up 1, Rubrik's up 1, Adobe's up 1. Put in the chat if you bought the software dip on anything. I bought it on Palantir, Oracle, and I'm looking at a few others, but put in the chat if you took a shot on a Salesforce, Adobe, or even you DCA'd if you think this stuff is just getting overdone. Shopify, 108 to 112, not bad. Getting some love right there. Path, even up 1%. Now, it might be a dead cat bounce in software, but it's not even a bounce. It's like 1 or 2% is nothing here. So we got to see if they can actually make a 5 to 8% move. I see Zeta, I see Rubrik, I see Palantir, ServiceNow, CrowdStrike. ServiceNow should be up today, right? ServiceNow up 2%, ServiceNow 84.68, that's up 2.1%. June says bought Cadence and Synopsys. I don't hate that because those are most intimately tied to the semiconductor sector, even though they're software names. I see a lot of Microsoft, a lot of Palantirs, a lot of Axons. I don't hate that either. Axon right there, 346, Microsoft 371. Nebius 30 cents away. Bought a ton of Snowflake yesterday. Snowflake, look, I mean, I know they're not profitable and stuff, but again, heavily discounted. Price of sales of 8 at this point. And Snowflake's moat probably comes in question, but the other question is how much do these names need to be discounted, even if their moat is affected? And earnings growth, I think, will tell the bigger story when we get that, hopefully over the coming weeks. Snowflake right there, 122.70 was at 130 last week. Took a pretty big hit right there. Tesla 349, Oracle 142, Datadog. I mean, a lot of these names, again, you could say Anthropic's going to take some of their lunch, but if they're still growing, how much of a discount rate do you put on those future cash flows? And has it become too aggressive? Maybe it hasn't, but if it has, these should be some really good opportunities to get into. It's just kind of taking your best pick of the one that you think has the best capacity to grow. AppLovin 407 getting a bit of a rebound right here. Microsoft still moving. Nebius has not broken 150, but she is trying. She's trying. Are you trimming Nebius? No, I made the mistake of doing that already at 105. So the rest of the position that I have not sold those $200 covered calls, by the way. I wanted to do it on Friday, but then it started going down, and I was like, let me not do it. So I'm letting it ride, but the 200 May covered call paying $4 a premium is kind of stupid. And it's really making me think that's not a bad opportunity here. But then again, if this thing kind of goes parabolic, and I know it already has, then who knows? Maybe leaving it uncapped is a better idea. Delta right there, down 2.9%. Look at that. Nate's trying to get me in trouble. Just do it. It's 375. Yeah, Nate, but what if it goes to 200? That's so greedy. That's like, yeah, but what if it keeps going up? No, in all seriousness, I probably will do it. I mean, like 200. I feel like at 200, if I let go of the rest of my shares, I'm not going to be that upset. But at 200, it's, you know, it's pushing a heavy market cap. The question is, do they have that revenue growth to justify it? Bitcoin 71, still holding 71. SoFi 16, Fastly a little bit of a move, Zeta a little bit of a move. So your software and your fintech names are finally catching a small bid. HUD, very small bid, but it's still red on the day, 68.41. HIMS, is that moving? HIMS is flat, but trying to go green. Micron, I don't know why this has been flat. Wow, Micron's down 3. What just happened right there? SanDisk is up 3. I am not an expert on memory, so I don't know all the internal nuances between SanDisk and Micron, but there is something because SanDisk has been taken off like a rocket ship, and Micron is not. It's still down from those 470 highs. Forward PE is still 4.4 on Micron. Yeah, not sure. Not sure why this one's going to get down about 2.6% right there. Oracle, are we still moving? Oracle's moving. There you go, 143. Let's see if that can... I mean, Oracle theoretically... Dude, Oracle was at 170 after earnings. So this whole software sell-off, Iran war coming together, maybe created a decent opportunity there. ServiceNow, 3% up. That's green. Where is Palantir? Can we break through 131? Not yet, but we're at 130.5. Red Cat and the drone stocks have been flat ever since the ceasefire was announced. And again, a lot. So, okay, so what the hell's going on with Ondas? Because all I'm hearing is warrants dilution. They're buying a new company. They have to dilute to buy the other company. And I'm seeing some of the OG Ondas people on X that are saying they're questioning management strategy now. So if someone has some logic here on what the hell is happening here, because like I thought the dilution was part of their strategy, and now people are upset that they're diluting as much. And, you know, is that a good opportunity, or is that like management's using shareholders to, you know, to essentially advance their needs at the behest of shareholders? I think is the question that's being debated right now on Ondas. S&P, look at that, 678. Imagine we flip green. Imagine we flip green. New York Post, Iranian officials are studying abandoning uranium enrichment as a U.S. condition for ending the war. Oh, that's a juicy headline. Now, it's coming from the New York Post, so I don't know how seriously the market's going to take it. If that was Bloomberg, I think that would be bigger. Iranian officials are studying abandoning uranium enrichment as a U.S. condition for ending the war. Let me see if we're getting some other forces or some other outlets covering that. Dude, that's what we want to see. I mean, I think that's what the futures thought would happen last night. Like they thought there was going to be the potential for that to be the case, which is why it just wasn't as bad as we thought. New York Post. I'm trying to get the exact Cactus. If you have the article, please send it and I will pull it up. We need Bloomberg and Reuters to pick that up. Oil's dropping. Palantir, yes, baby. 132. Getting closer. Oil is dropping. 103. It was up 8. Now it's up 7. How about the VIX? Wow, Oracle's making a move. Nebius and Oracle both making a move. VIX is down, VIX is up 5, but it's down from being up 8. Oracle almost 145. Nebius 150. There she goes. 150 officially for Mr. Nebesis. There it is. Oracle trying to go for 145 as well. I think it's that headline, folks. I know it's the New York Post, but maybe if some of these other outlets pick it up, We're going to get some love. Oracle at 145. Nebius, she'll get back to 150. She'll get back there. She just broke through 50,000 shares to get above it. She will get back there. 149.79. There it is. I'm not going to be ringing the bell for a new price. If you're new to the channel, every time a stock that a lot of us covered, if it hit a new price, I would ring the bell. If more than half of you mute the bell when I freaking ring the market open, I cannot keep annoying you guys at this point by ringing the bell every time a stock price hits our level. I miss it too, but just know this is your fault, because every time you guys get annoyed by me ringing the bell at 9:30, I can't do that throughout the show anymore. So we're going to retire that, but still very happy to see Nebius right there at 150, Oracle at 145, Palantir getting to 132. Now that everyone's making money, they want the bell. Look at Tanner, 150. Now we need the bell. No, I'm not doing the bell anymore, because then when we get to 155, we're going to need the bell. Then when Palantir gets back to 135, we're going to need the bell. Like, we can't, like, it's just going to be too much ringing of the bell, and I know how much you guys get annoyed. I mean, literally at the meetups, people are telling me, dude, I don't like the bell. Some of you guys said you like it, but a lot of you guys said you don't. So I'm actually trying to be considerate of what people think. But Nebius right there, look at that, 150. Shout out to Tanner. Tanner's been doing a great job covering Nebius as well. He's made multiple videos about it over the past, basically over the past month. And I think it basically was one of his top 5 stocks to buy this year. So Tanner, another retail investor who's been doing a phenomenal job covering this company. Manuela, I think, was the first guy who really brought this thing on people's radar last year. So this one has been an absolute gem, has done very, very well for retail investors. And although people have trimmed along the way, I know a lot of people said last week they trimmed, I trimmed at 105. It's made a move. And if you held, and that's the power of conviction. Some, a lot of people trimmed Palantir on the way up, but if you held on, you got some really good gains. And these are the gains that you are seeing on a name like Nebius. Micron trying to rebound from 410 to 413. SanDisk almost 900. CoreWeave, bro, 110. Okay, so it's not just Nebius having fun. CoreWeave and Oracle participating in this. Iren also finally flipping green, 39.80. SanDisk again almost 900. Hood back to green. And then Adobe at 230. Okay, I will ring the freaking bell. Goodness gracious. But after this, we're done. After this, we're going to need a much higher level to... Goodness, you guys. Now everyone's making money. They want the bell. They don't care how much it annoys them. Their portfolios are up. They can ignore it. All right. Congrats, Nebius. 150. I pissed off so many people by doing that. So if you're in Nebius, if you're in the Neo Clouds, that was for you. But I probably pissed off a lot of people who do not care about that damn bell. But it is what it is. Palantir right there. 131.88. Iren 40. Robinhood 70. Almost 70. I mean, Nebius looks like she's ready to go above 150. Air Test System, that's at 70.6. I'm trying to get more confirmation on this freaking New York Post headline. Let's see if it's legit. Because if it is, I think that's a big deal. I can't find the exact article here. I'm trying to see this headline. This has got to be the headline that got everything to start getting a little bit more. I mean, everything that was red is starting to slowly flip green. Even Rocket Lab, look at that. Rocket Lab was at 65. It's at 68. Like, I think that's the New York Post headline. That has to be that headline. What else would it be? I mean, obviously it could just be algos and different stuff going on, but still, it feels like that's the catalyst. Yeah, okay, you have multiple places reporting it right now. I don't see the article, but I'm seeing multiple accounts report it, which means we still don't know exactly if it's real. The headline is Iranians are considering getting rid of their enrichment program. That's the headline. And that's the only reason I think you could be seeing this big of a move. Look at SanDisk, $3 away from 900. See, there's so many comments of people being annoyed by the bell. I'm sorry. I got peer pressured into it, okay? I got peer pressured. It's not easy when you have like 1,000 people that are like, do this. And you're just sitting there like, okay, I guess I have to do this. Like, I can't do anything else other than be a man of the people. But look, in all seriousness, congrats to everybody who's in that name. Obviously has done very well. Cypher going green, Wolf going green, GE Veranova going green, Salesforce, nice little 3% move. Buy the rumor, sell the news. Maybe OSS is, dude, OSS up 5%. You're telling me that's because like people woke up and started buying OSS? No, this has to be that New York Post headline creating a general market pump. Chevron and Exxon getting some red candles, which is good. They're still up on the day. Wow, Nebius, she's not stopping. She didn't hit 152 yet. She hit 151.99. Did not see 152. Very close. I'll check resistance. The VIX is going down, though. The VIX is going down. There it is, 152. Wow, okay. She's moving. See, this is part of the reason I didn't sell those damn calls, because what if she's just moving at this point? What if she's just going to be moving? 153 has 2,000 shares. She's about to bust through 153. OSS had a new data center deal. Okay, that makes more sense. Look at the S&P. We're about to go green. We're about to go green. Even Ondas, it was stuck almost below $8. Now it's at $9. Micron, $1 away from flipping, or sorry, $5 away from flipping green. HIMS just went green. You've got ASTS that's moving green. How much was the OSS contract worth today? Let me pull it up. Let's see how much they got if that was disclosed, because that would be important to know. But at least that explains why it's getting... It was down in the pre-markets, though. $500,000 that could scale to $1 million and $10 million. Okay, OSS to support network of autonomous energy nodes for emerging alternative energy powered data center company. All right, so not a big contract in terms of revenue amount, but again, for a company of their size, the prototypes and being able to expand the ceilings on those deals, that's what's the most important. OSS 7%. All right, so that should be helping it. And then obviously this New York Post headline kind of creating a little bit more of a surge. Wow, Nebius, 154. 154. Blake says, I have a big position in Nebius, however, a little overbought. I'm fearful that there will be a reallocation into other equities. You know, I think that's fair. It's very, very fair to be afraid of the overbought nature of this, or just like the momentum-rooted nature of a name. But also sometimes, you know, you let a market be a market. And right now, the amount of FOMO that must be taking place, not even on retail, but on an institutional level, to get access to something that is essentially rooted in one of the hottest sectors in the market, which is AI, data centers, and compute. A lot of the lack of profitability or dilution or lack of EBITDA, all that will be overlooked when price action is going this nuclear. And the point is, if it falls back to 130, are people going to be that upset? I mean, like, if you bought at 150, yeah, but if you bought at 90, you probably don't care that much. So now it's a question of just seeing where that volume comes in and how the stock potentially re-rates. I do wonder if management is like, all right, this is another opportunity for us to dilute. And I wouldn't blame them. AAOI, by the way, down 4%. They don't need to, given they just did, which is actually very encouraging, because if they don't do it, then maybe this thing just keeps running. But I would not blame them if they raise more capital right here. NVIDIA is about to go green. 187.80. Trump is not going to go live at 10 a.m. I don't know if he'll be live today. The blockade is starting at 10 a.m. I guess we'll get some details on that once it officially goes live. But the markets right now don't care about a blockade. They care about a potential negotiation that might end up coming through. Reddit right there, that's up 3%. SoFi's up now? SoFi, yeah, that's New York Post. SoFi was down in the pre-market, and they had a piece of good news around Galileo, and it flips. Same thing with Robinhood. Look at Rock Lab, almost $70. Like, all of this is the idea of the Iranians giving in on their enrichment program. At least that's my thought on this. New York Post, another headline: Iranian delegation's inability to communicate with leadership in Tehran is one of the reasons for the failure of the negotiations. Okay, that's bullish, because that means it's something that got lost in translation. I mean, if you're talking about communication problems, that is something that's fixable. That's not something that's like a fundamental disconnect between them and the Americans. Trump tweet, what do we got? Give us something good, Donnie T. Give us something good. There is no Trump tweet. There is no Trump tweet. What are you guys talking about? There's no Trump tweet. 5 of you guys said Trump tweet. There is no Trump tweet. Trump, last time he tweeted was 5 hours ago, and he tweeted an article calling him brilliant. dude, when you guys say Trump tweet, I take it seriously. Now I can't trust you guys when you say Trump tweet. Like, if you're going to play with my emotions like that, I can't trust when you guys say freaking Trump tweet. You don't have Bloomberg reposting the New York Post headline, but you do have very large accounts of a couple million followers on Twitter reposting the New York Post headline. So that, I think, is bullish. S&P goes green. S&P goes greeny green. Greeny green on the S&P. Oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. However, we have existing home sales, which were lower than expected. Not sure how much the market's going to care about that, but here is the data on the home sales.
Post-earnings move as the conference
post-conflict, so interest rates, especially those affecting mortgages, was a bit on the rise. We're expecting a number slightly over 4 million seasonally adjusted annualized units come in on the light side, 3.98 million. 3.98 million seasonally adjusted annualized units. That is definitely sequentially lower than 4.13 million in the rearview mirror, and definitely less than a 4.05 expected. That equals where we were in June of last year, right on the nose. To find a lower rate, you would have to go back to all the way back to September of 24, SEP of 24. So this is a disappointment, but there might be some silver lining here with interest rates moving up a bit, impacting negatively existing home sales. We do expect inventories to rise a bit, and that.
Okay, so not good home sales, but then again, we knew home sales weren't going to be good because mortgage rates are high. The 10-year still high, so I don't think the market cares that much about it. S&P, small red candle right there, but we're basically green on the day. Rocket Lab 70, Nebius 153, OSS 10% on that 500,000 contract they got this morning. Palantir 3.2, Ondas goes green, Red Cat goes green, SanDisk almost 900, Micron very close to going green, Hoodie 70, that's green. ServiceNow 5%. On ServiceNow, congrats if you bought the ServiceNow dip on Friday. Oracle, $8 up, 6%. That's green. Synopsys is green. Cadence is green. The Qs are green. Apple's red. Not sure why Apple's down, but it is down. What about Meta and Google? Are the hyperscalers still down? Meta just flipped green. There you go. Google just flipped green as well. Maybe SaaS is back. It's way too early to tell. Obviously, I think the gut reaction people have is it's a relief rally. But all of the SaaS names are green. Apple's red. Nvidia's basically about to go green. Nvidia 188. Amazon also very close to going green. It hit 240 on Friday. Apple's the only one that's meaningfully down. Even Tesla, look at that. Back to 353 on Tessie. We cannot find the article. Cactus is still looking for the reporter from the New York Post. I don't see the article yet, but you have multiple big outlets reposting it. So the news is spreading. And maybe that's enough to get the market to be potentially excited. Again, the headline here is that the Iranians are considering abandoning their enrichment program, which is a very big headline. I imagine Bloomberg's going crazy right now to see if they can confirm that. Because if you get some real legit business media putting that out, we're going to see the market react. And the market's already trying to react to it. 632 here on Meta. Microsoft's still up. Did Tanner clip me saying greeny green? Goodness. Dude, we're greeny green. If I get a dog, I should name him Greeny. I should name my dog. I think Bubba is the more superior name. Greeny. That's a pretty good name, too. And when we have a red day, we'll have to bring Greeny on stream to make us feel better. 632 on Meta. Even Disney's up, bro. Freaking Disney. Mickey Mouse got a bid today. This is a complete sort of not only reversal, but just like counter opposite view of what the futures imply last night. Look at Microsoft getting 2%. On the idea that a deal would, or a lack of a deal would cause a Black Monday. We're not seeing that. We're seeing a greeny green Monday, at least for now. Oracle 146, NVIDIA about to go green. Let me pull up a heat map. That was my favorite bell ring ever on that Nebius 150. Look, if you have a heavy Nebius position, you probably really enjoyed that bell ring. A lot of us had heavy Palantir and Hood positions last year where we rang the bell like 5 times a day, every day for 5 months. That was kind of crazy. But I also understand it can be annoying. There's your heat map. Software's up. Look at all your software names. Look at that. Why do they put Uber inside of that software? Uber's, well, I guess technically, but Adobe, Datadog, Workday, all that. Workday's up 6%. Workday had a really crappy week last week. Tech is up to an extent. Mac 7s are slightly up. And then what's red is a little bit of the financials because of Goldman Sachs earnings. Uber is 71.40. 71.40. Rocket Lab, space is coming back. Let's go back to my space watch list. Take a look at that. Look at that. Almost everything flipped green except Planet Labs and Saidu and EchoStar. Everything else, Rocket Lab right back to 70. You're getting some love. The blockade, yeah. So the blockade's officially in effect. I don't know if the market cares about it. Like, I mean, the thing about these things when they happen is like the market knows well before they happen. Quite frankly, the market knows well before they're even announced that they're going to happen. Snapchat passing $5. This thing bottomed at 350 on March 30th, but it seems like the market's not caring about it being in effect. What's his name? Evan Spiegel, the CEO of Snapchat. Not only did he drop a podcast 2 days ago, but then he went to freaking Coachella with his girlfriend, Miranda Kerr. And the memes were hilarious because everyone was quote tweeting the picture and being like, bro, go back to work. Your stock is down so much. He's just having the time of his life in Coachella. And they're like, dude, we're buying this pile of crap at $4, $3. Get it to go up. I want to buy Snapchat so badly. Like, I feel like this is probably a $10, $15 stock. But then you look at the management team, you look at the stock-based comp, you look at the insider selling, you look at how much they don't care about shareholders based on how they flexed their voting shares over the past decade. And you're like, I'd rather buy Meta. First of all, Meta has a better valuation than Snapchat, even though Snapchat has a smaller dollar amount. And it's like, I'd rather trust Zucks. Micron, are we dumping? It's not really dumping, down 2%. It's not moving with SanDisk, though. Reddit's getting a pump, is it? Reddit is getting a pump, up 4%. Reddit kind of seen as a software name. So I guess you're getting some love right there. Yeah, the fact that we have a blockade and the SPY is green, I feel like has to be more bullish than not. Nebius right there, 150, 160. I ran at 40. That's up 3.5. Meta should aggressively take over Snap. That would be funny, right? If Zucks just starts personally buying shares in Snapchat. I mean, again, they tried to buy them a while ago. NVIDIA, almost green. And Evan said no. I just think at some point, if you're a founder of a company and you're going to disregard, I mean, it's fine for the stock to be flat for years or be red for years if you are building the foundation of something special. But like, Snapchat's not doing that. And so then it just seems like it's a piggy bank for the C-suite, which as a retail investor, you feel like crap. Like if an institutional investor gets rugged by a founder, it's like that's their job to protect themselves from not doing that. But as a retail investor, it's just because this is your own money, right? This is you working your 9 to 5 and then allocating into Evan Spiegel's vision. And then this guy just blatantly disrespecting your capital. Like that's the tough part about investing in Snap. Chevron only up 1%. Exxon's about to go red. I don't understand why Micron's not following SanDisk. Micron is still one of the cheapest names that's out there. At the end of the day, if SanDisk is, I don't think they're that different. Maybe they are, but if SanDisk is cheap and on a 4 PE basis and getting a bid, Micron, Western Digital, Seagate, they all should be getting it as well. All of them are down except SanDisk. So that is a little confusing. Oh, I forgot. You're right. SanDisk did join the NASDAQ 100. That's probably why. I mean, it got that upgrade, but the level of institutional funds that are pouring into this right now, that was on Thursday, right? That it got approved into the NASDAQ. That was April 10th. So that was Friday. Yeah, that's what's happening. So who did they take out? They took out Atlassian. That's such a good swap though. Atlassian up 5% today. Atlassian was down 10% on Friday. That's such a great swap. SanDisk over Atlassian makes way more sense than the NASDAQ. Friday night. Yeah, okay. That explains why SanDisk is getting the move. That makes sense. Nebius PE is 360. Well, if you look out 10 years, every time if someone says a stock's expensive, well, you know, if you just technically not zoom out, but zoom forward, it doesn't look as bad. I remember when Palantir hit 50 for the first time, Dan Ives went to like 2037 or something. He's like, well, if you look at it 15 years from now, it's like, me and Arnie, we were dying that day. We were like, oh man, we love him, but he's trying really hard. Because that's when, you know, when it was at 50, the earnings weren't like the earnings they are today. So now if you go to 2035, Palantir actually looks kind of cheap. But back when it was 50, that wasn't really there. 151 on Nebius. Also, yeah, I mean, look, they're not even profitable yet. So I don't know if PE is the best metric to look at. The market obviously is saying they don't care about profitability with Nebius. Maybe one day they wake up and they do, but I mean, 90 to 150 in a couple weeks. No, the market's saying we don't care. We care more about execution, the ability for them to holistically conglomerate equity stakes in all these other companies, and that's what's creating the bid. Oracle, give us 150, man. This thing should have never got to 130. 145.90 right here. Let's see if it can make a move up to 150. What's the average price target on Oracle? I think it's closer to 190. Let me check. By the way, the average price target on Nebius, let me pull that up, is 167. Average price target on Palantir right now is 194. On Oracle, on Hood, it's 106. On Oracle, 245. Wow. 27 buy ratings, 6 holds, 0 sell ratings. Yeah, I think most of the analysts are like, it's de-risked at this point. Like, if you were going to buy it, it's got to be at these levels, unless you're looking for low hundreds, which, you know, might not easily happen. The quantum name's getting a little bit of a bid. Lumentum, is that going up today? That's actually, wow, down 5. Dude, the freaking photonic stocks are so volatile. Lumentum and Coherent, both red right here. And ServiceNow getting some more love, 87.60. Okay, not a bad Monday, right? I mean, not the Monday that I think people potentially expected last night. Let's get an update on what happened with Trump over the weekend. But overall, even with the blockade, markets seem to be moving on from it, at least for now.
10 a.m. Eastern, and U.S. Central Command has said it will apply to all maritime traffic entering and exiting Iranian ports. CENTCOM saying in a Sunday statement that the blockade will be enforced impartially against vessels of all nations entering or departing Iranian ports and coastal areas, including all Iranian ports on the Arabian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. President Trump then added on Truth Social that the U.S. Navy will also intercept any ships that pay a toll to Iran. And then, guys, we got a few more details this morning from a note the U.S. military sent to seafarers, which was seen by Reuters, including that any vessel entering or exiting the blockaded area will be subject to interception, diversion, and capture. But the note said the U.S. will not be impeding neutral traffic to or from non-Iranian destinations. That said, the Iranians will be blocking that traffic. An Iranian military spokesperson reportedly saying in response to the U.S. actions that if Iranian ports are threatened, no port in the Persian Gulf and Sea of Oman will be safe. President Trump, guys, described it this way. He said, there will be a time when we'll have them all come in and all come out, but it won't be a percentage. It won't be a friend of yours, like a country that's your ally or a country that's your friend. It is all or nothing. That's about the traffic through the Strait of Hormuz and through the Gulf. So essentially a move here to ramp up the economic pressure on Iran to get them back to the negotiating table, to try to ensure that they're not able to only allow the traffic that benefits them and to cost Iran's economy likely hundreds of millions of dollars a day in lost exports. So now, guys, the question will be what it looks like in practice and what it means for the global economy as well.
And what it means, Megan, for the duration of this conflict, you know, now that we're sort of out of the window of how long we originally expected it to last.
Absolutely. That's what's been notable, that for all of the action over the weekend, we didn't get really any sort of update on the timeline for the ceasefire, which as of now is set to expire next Tuesday, April 21st. So just over a week from today. We have seen reports from the Wall Street Journal that the president is considering more limited military strikes, potentially upending that ceasefire early. Axios says that mediators are looking to schedule another round of talks before the end of that ceasefire, but no confirmation from the White House on any of that. So at this point, we don't know if or when this brings the Iranians back to the table, how long the U.S. is willing to keep it up, and really what they want their next step to be.
Okay, Megan, thank you very much. Megan Casella with the latest on Iran from the White House. Obviously, here on Wall Street, we watch the energy price, the oil price.
Oil going down, folks. This New York Post headline, it was enough to get us to make a move. Do we keep that move today? Requires more confirmation. Here's the reporter. Her name is Caitlin. Let me pull up her tweet. Hopefully, Caitlin. Dude, yeah, this is kind of crazy. Whoa, this tweet was posted at 7:40 in the morning. It's 3 hours old. But the wire, like the terminal and all that stuff, picked it up 15 minutes ago. Huh. Iranian officials are still considering the U.S. proposal to end the war centered around giving up uranium enrichment. One thing affecting why Iran couldn't make a deal while the U.S. was in Islamabad. While Vance called Trump 6 times, Iranians could not call their final decision maker back in Tehran due to security risks and likely would have had to return home to discuss an agreement in person, a Pakistani analyst told me. Okay, so not only is this 3 hours old, but the algos picked it up at a very weird moment. You would think they would pick it up during the pre-market, but they didn't. Also, what does that mean? Iranians couldn't call their final decision maker back in Tehran due to security risks? What do you mean they couldn't call someone? What security risk are you talking about? They couldn't pick up the phone? Was the phone going to explode if they picked up the phone? What are they phone tracking? But they couldn't, the Iranians are that unsophisticated with their technology that they can't have any form of communication. It's because the US is going to track it, hackers. So that's the reason the negotiations were ineffective, because they couldn't, because that's definitely a legit if you can't talk to your leadership, like if Vance couldn't call Trump and have if Trump didn't agree to the ceasefire or the deal or whatever, Vance can't do it himself. He's only the vice president. So that actually is very intriguing around why the deal couldn't go through. Maybe it wasn't a lack of negotiating power. It was a lack of communication, right? If you can't, I don't know who is the final person who gives them, maybe it's the Supreme. If you can't talk to the Ayatollah because of whatever unsecure line that you're afraid of from a security perspective, being able to get in contact with, then yeah, there's no way you can make a deal. I mean, if that's actually true, that actually is very bullish, because that is something that can be resolved rather quickly, one could imagine, versus both of the sides being at an impasse. Okay, the problem is we're not getting other sources reporting this. It's only the New York Post. And as much as I think Caitlin is probably a good reporter, I don't know if Caitlin is going to be seen as the most serious news source for this headline. SanDisk 893, Nebius still at 153, Micron still down 2%, SPY basically flat. What's the resistance on Nokia at 10? Nokia did get an upgrade today. Let me check that, and that's why it's up 5%. Tracking the phone. I mean, look, that is a fair point. You would still think they have a way to talk. So they went into the negotiations thinking that, how do you even go into a negotiation with zero chance to connect with, the people that make the final decision? I don't know, if you're the Iranians, maybe you say, hey, let's aren't the Pakistanis an ally? Maybe they create a secure line for you or something. That is just such a weird, I believe it, but it is weird. At 10, you have 30,000 shares, or sorry, 64,000 shares for Nokia. 64,000 shares for Nokia. Oh yeah, that's a good point by Cactus. Reporting that day was that Iranian negotiators showed up having full decision-making power. That's what was being reported, but that is, I remember Friday night, we were talking about that. That was the exact verbiage. Full negotiating, full decision-making power was the vocabulary that we got on Friday. I don't know. That's a weird. I want to believe it because it's a bullish headline. If that's the issue, that they couldn't call up their boss, Nokia. There you go, $10. But it is a more weird headline than not. ServiceNow at 87. S&P trying to get back to 680. Where is Pound here? Did we get 132? Not yet. Still at 131. Most of these names flipping green. How do you check resistance level? So I don't know how some of the other brokers do it. On Robinhood, it's really easy. You just click a yellow button near the price and it shows you the book volume. I don't have IBKR, so I don't know how you would do it there, but you don't need a broker. I mean, you can Google a bunch of different websites that show you this stuff. It's just the easiest for me to use it on Robinhood. ServiceNow still up. Snowflake up 3. Datadog up 2. Oil 101, baby. Look at that. Okay. Even if the New York Post isn't the best source, the market believes it. Oil was at 108 105 this morning. Dude, if we get below 100, where's the VIX? If this VIX gets below 20, which doesn't seem crazy, we're going to close green. VIX is 2 cents above 20. We're going to be below 20. It's up 4% today. I think we have a shot of flipping green right here. All right, put in the chat if you did anything today so far. Bought, sold. I have no calls on my Oracle, and I kind of don't want to have calls on Oracle. I think I probably should just sell the damn calls on Nebius and call it a day on that. But Oracle is still naked. Tesla, are we moving? Tesla still 350. Naba said I sold all my Ondas. Bought Celsius, bought Palantir, sold Palantir puts. I definitely don't hate that. It's added to Amazon Small. Cactus, is this still the New York Post? Got another headline here. Reports indicate that some Iranian officials are weighing the option of suspending or ending their enrichment program in exchange for lifting the sanctions and a formal end to the conflict. However, hardline factions within the Iranian leadership continue to view uranium enrichment as a non-negotiable sovereign right. If you're seeing more sources pick up that headline, we are going freaking green today. Like, that's a big deal if they're ready to give up enrichment. That's it. Trump's going to say, that's it. That's the victory. This is why I did it. I'm sorry you guys had higher gas prices for a little bit. We had to go through this excursion, but I have guaranteed future generations of the United States of America safety from a nuclear Iran. Trump will celebrate this like there's no tomorrow. The markets will love it. Oil will go down. And then right before earnings, if NVIDIA crushes, Google crushes, Meta crushes, we're off to the races. But there's a big but there, and I cannot lie. Iran legitimately has to end their enrichment program, which might take a while for that to play out. So I understand the skepticism of people still on that. 678 S&P on the day. Some people saying they sold Iran. Super said I bought some SoFi. Alan says I bought Microsoft. RF Andy said I rolled my Nebius 150s. That's probably the right thing to do. Sold TSLL calls. Sold NVIDIA. Bought more Oracle. Did we hit 155 on the basis? Did we do that? Wow. This is kind of crazy, bro. This is kind of crazy. You guys got that line, right? You guys got to see, smart people got that line right there. And I cannot lie. There you go. I've used that line before, but it was like a year ago. I've been waiting to use it again. 156, dude. What is happening? Like is this retail FOMOing in? 9 million shares of volume gets us an 8% move? Or are these the toots that want to play the game a little bit more? SanDisk 900. Okay, we have a real Trump tweet. We have a real Trump tweet. Give us something good, Trump. Give us something good. Here we go. Iran's navy is laying at the bottom of the sea, completely obliterated, 158 ships. What we have not hit are their small number of what they call, quote, fast attack ships, because we did not consider them much of a threat. Warning, if any of these ships come close to our blockade, they will be immediately eliminated using the same system of kill that we use against the drug dealers on boats at sea. It's quick and brutal. P.S. 98.2% of drugs coming into the U.S. by ocean or sea have stopped. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I actually don't think he's bluffing there. I mean, if the Iranians legit try to shoot at the U.S. Navy ships, they're getting blown up. Like, it's just that simple. because then the U.S. is going to be like, hold on, it's self-defense at that point. Like maybe we don't initiate shooting at you guys, but if you shoot at us, we are coming back very hard. And that might actually be some level of a deterrent that potentially is a way for the Iranians to feel more pressure, which is maybe what the market is pricing in right here. Palantir back to 132. Nebius is getting ready to go to 150. So are we going to hit 160 today? Are we legit going to hit one? Let me check resistance. I don't know if this is retail, guys. I think the fact that Oracle is finally catching a bid, to me, means it's the whole data center bucket, along with CoreWeave and Nebius, et cetera, that are going up. And that might just be algos re-rating all of these neoclouds. By the way, VIX is under 20, which is really good. Nebius 160, resistance is 17,000 shares. 157, which we didn't touch yet, right? 157 is 2,000 shares. That's nothing. 158 is 4,000 shares. That is nothing. 159 is 2,000. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. And there shouldn't be anything because, now you're in price discovery in terms of real resistance. JP Morgan did say buy the dip that morning. That is correct. JP Morgan this morning, I think we covered it when we were talking about Morgan Stanley. They said buy the dip. They specifically said we expect a V-shaped recovery, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, JP Morgan, V-shape rebound likely. The strategist knows the volatility may persist, but a 3 to 12 month horizon favors adding risk as a bearish sentiment. The bank also expects international stocks and emerging markets to outperform. I mean, if we get this deal, maybe there's a shot. Mike, and thanks for the super chat. Scared money makes no money. That is true. And if you bought any of the software dip last week or any of the NeoCloud dip 2 weeks ago, if that money wasn't scared, it is definitely making some more money today. 156 on Nebius. LWLG, we looked at this in the morning. There you go, 1240. It's following AAOI and a lot of these smaller names. Market cap now of $2 billion. It has a price to sales of 7,750. But if you go 15 years out, that price to sales starts to come down. But look, at this point, none of these metrics matter. I mean, these are all rooted in momentum around AI supply chain. And they might be tops or they might be just getting started. Now, this thing is up basically 150% in the past week. So you got to approach it with caution. But I mean, at this point, money is definitely flowing into this sector. Nebius, 156, GE Veranova under 1,000, GLW up 1. German Chancellor Merz said he had low expectations for the U.S.-Iran talks held over the weekend. Quote, I wasn't surprised by the decision to break off the talks in Islamabad from the outset. I didn't get the impression that the talks were particularly well prepared. He says this will remain a long-term process and will continue to feel the consequences of this war for a long time, even after it is over. By the way, Starmer also was not the happiest from the UK. He said, quote, we do not support the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. We will not be dragged into war despite pressure, no matter the circumstances. So Trump is not going to get any help from the Brits on this blockade. SoFi trying to get back above 17. ELF up 2%. NVIDIA almost green. SNDK again. NASDAQ inclusion. Yeah, obviously this thing is going to pump. That's why it's outperforming the other memory names. Dude, let's see if we can get Palantir back to 135. If we could do that, I would feel very, very confident. Oracle, baby, 147.50. I still don't think Oracle's expensive here. It's just if Nebius and CoreWeave have a 10% down day, I feel like Oracle's going to go with it. Like some of these you don't have to be too greedy about. Like they have retracements, and those retracements, the whole sector just falls off on those retracements, Oracle included. But maybe there's a new floor for some of these names. S&P 679, ServiceNow, nice 6%. Okay, you're seeing some bigger moves. Rocket Lab 70, Iren 4%, Ondas up 2, Red Cat up. We just need more confirmation that this New York Post headline is real. I thought Trump would potentially confirm it, but he didn't. So we're going to need to see if that ends up happening. Gas prices are $4.13 per average. Gas prices $4.13 on average now is what we're seeing.
Prices and another spike today, 5%. We're off the highs on WTI, but still looking at really substantial gains. And then the question on the economy becomes, can consumers handle it? How will consumers hold up in the face of rising oil and gas prices, which have already spiked pretty high? I thought one chart was particularly encouraging this morning. It comes from Bank of America, and it shows that in March, we saw really strong spending. This is total credit and debit card spending per household, rising 4.3% from last year. And that's the strongest growth since early 2023. This is according to Bank of America's internal data. They look at all the credit card point of sale data and everything like that. And, higher gas prices are a factor here because we're obviously spending a lot more at the gas pump. So that gets factored in. It surged 16.5% month over month. But if you look at the total card spending and exclude gas, you still saw pretty healthy spending growth, 3.6%. So one thing, David, I would take away from this is watch what they do, not what they say on the consumer. We saw really weak confidence reading at the end of last week. Obviously, the gas price weighs on sentiment, but overall, spending is pretty good. Maybe it's the tax refunds. It's certainly split among high income, low income. With low income spends a much greater share of their purchasing on gas. But overall, it's resilient, even in March, in the face of these higher gas prices.
Is that surprising to you?
I think it's a little surprising, right? Because, even if our economy and consumer spending is less dependent on GDP than, say, it was in other oil price spikes, which it is, you psychologically, you'd expect there to be a bit of an impact. You watch that tick every time.
Right, even though it is
a
smaller as a percentage of overall budgets than it certainly was during other price shocks that we've had many years ago, for example.
70s.
I do wonder at what point are we going to start to see products coming from places like Asia, given the input costs there are going up dramatically.
Yeah.
Or that hasn't happened yet, but could it happen?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the economies that are most dependent, obviously, on oil are on oil
Through the
exports.
Strait, that goes through the Strait of Hormuz.
Are mostly in Asia, and those economies are feeling it the worst. The Korea and Japan and Myanmar and Malaysia and all these countries. But, so far, as far as the U.S. resilience and the U.S. consumer, it hasn't manifest deeper in terms of underlying inflation besides the overall headline price. We got that CPI report last week. And yes, we saw a big spike in the headline number, which was expected. I think actually came in a little better than expected. But it's the core that matters, which is...
And that core also wasn't that bad, 2.6 versus 2.7. Again, the 75% of the increase in oil or increase in inflation on CPI was oil prices. So if that goes down, we're not going to be, seeing that massive level of inflation continuing to increase. Sandus, 907, 6.4%. Again, oil prices still affecting a variety of stocks. You got your Grabs that are affected, your Sea Limiteds, your UALs, your American Airlines, your cruise lines. So all of those still feeling some of the pain. Look at that. Carnival still down 3.4%. If you're sensitive to oil prices, that still is affecting you, but the tech stocks are taking off because they're not that sensitive, and the market might be pricing in that oil is going to come down. AAOI flips green, back up to 1.2%. Synopsis right there, that's up 3.5. The Q's 611. eToro up 2. Archer up a little bit. I mean, Nvidia's about to flip green too, 17 cents away. Like, this is not necessarily the ugliest. Wow, someone just bought 10 million of potentially bought. No, this is a buy. This is a buy. We can see 10 million of Microsoft OTM calls. Strike is 450. Expiration is August. August, 450 calls. They bought above the ask, so they're buying. I mean, Microsoft 450. What would that be? 450 minus 371. That's a 22% move. That's not a small move if you get there. 10 million of option flow come in right there. Ondas up 2%. Yeah, we covered that $68 million contract they got in the morning. The problem is the stock's been down so much because of all this warrant and dilution stuff, which I still fully don't understand. So the deal they got this morning was bullish, but it was even red after that deal until this New York Post headline kind of flipped the entire market. Chinese state media, China's foreign minister held a call with Pakistan's counterpart. Okay, so the Chinese are talking. That's good. Let's see if there's anything else on China. I believe they're China. Yeah, so this from Bloomberg. China and Iran can wait out a blockade. Iran has built a large offshore crude stockpile that could help it and Chinese buyers withstand a Strait of Hormuz disruption for weeks or months. The buffer gives Tehran leverage in its standoff with the U.S. despite efforts to pressure oil revenues through blockade threats. Okay, so that was the Bloomberg headline that came out about an hour ago, that China wouldn't be affected as much from not being able to buy Iranian oil due to the blockade. But if China's on the phone with the Pakistanis right now trying to resolve some of this shit, doesn't this feel like a game of Risk? Isn't that the board game where you have all these countries like trying to either become allies or enemies or adversaries? I've never played it, but I know what I've seen what the board game looks like. That's what every day it feels like we're adding more to the game and different parties are getting involved. China's foreign minister, the current ceasefire is very fragile. Yeah, that's why in the title I put ceasefire could end soon, because as per the Israel headlines this morning, I mean, basically Israel was saying the ceasefire is over if there's no deal, which is why they're going back to bombing Lebanon, which if they do that and the Iranians say no more ceasefire, they're bombing Lebanon, then, there's no more ceasefire. But if the Iranians are open to getting rid of their enrichment, you would assume a ceasefire stays in place and maybe there's a pathway to a deal. Oracle, 147. We touched 148. Nebius did not touch 157, but it's close. S&P's flat. SanDisk is going to the literal moon. This stock is now up, 200% this year? Does anyone own this, in depth? It's up 230% this year. Last year was up 550%. Does anyone, really have a big position in SanDisk? Because if you do, congrats. I mean, best performing stock in the past 5 years, basically. It's absolutely incredible. The problem is it kept going up and everyone's like, all right, at some point it has to stop going up, and it just kept going up and it continues to keep going up. It's my biggest position, 25%. Congrats. It's amazing. I mean, sometimes just having a little bit in these names can make so much of a difference. Yeah, it's now part of the NASDAQ. That's the reason it's getting this pump. I rolled Nebius 140, April 10th to 155, May 1st, thinking it would be a safe. Should I roll it again? I think you give it a couple days now. I mean, either Nebius is a rocket ship and you're just going to have to deal with rolling, or, it'll settle down and 155 will be okay. But I would wait until you get closer to 160, 162 and just be like, all right, the 150s are done with. Right now, it still has to prove to you it's going to. But 157 is here. There you go. All right, how much are these damn calls paying? May 8th, let's do May 15th. That's a month from now. $200 calls. Wow. They're paying $5.50. The 220s are on the strike now, or on the chain. My goodness, dude. That's a lot of premium for this thing to go up another 40%. That's aggressive. But I mean, let's see, dude. I also think it's getting ahead of itself. I'm not trying to say it's, I definitely, look, I wouldn't be a net buyer here. Maybe it goes to 200, but just like when Hood hit 150, now Hood's market cap was still a lot more aggressive than Nebius' market cap, but Hood is also profitable. They have 40% operating margins. Nebius doesn't have a lot of those kind of conventional business metrics, but they have a really good management team. They have good stake in ClickHouse. They have a bunch of deals, but I'm not buying at 157. I'm not taking that risk. So sometimes if you miss it, you miss it. And I would wait for it to settle down, but we'll see. Oracle, on the other hand, has not had the massive run, and it is part of that NeoCloud sector. I mean, Cypher, Wolf, there's been a bunch of them that haven't run as much as Nebius. Maybe you're not getting the same quality of company, but there are some deals out there that might play the sector without having to buy into the strength. Datadog, that's up 2%. NVIDIA, did we go green? We went green. Starmer, I have a video of him speaking on the Iran crisis. Is this live? This is live. I think this just started. Let me play this clip of what Starmer has to say.
We also put on record our thanks to Pakistan and other partners for playing such an important role in diplomatic efforts. We hope the process will continue without further escalation. And that applies to the running sore that is the Strait of Hormuz, shamefully exploited by Iran. All of the leaders that I met were crystal clear that freedom of navigation is vital and must be restored. No conditions, no tolls, and no tolerance of Iran holding the world's economy to ransom. Because, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, that's Starmer, who's said he's not going to help Trump with this Navy blockade, but also not really supporting Iran. Here's how Bloomberg is covering this blockade right now.
More pressure on Iran's leverage, its financial lifeline, in order to get some agreement when it comes to the nuclear talks this weekend that ultimately did not provide that result that this administration wanted to see.
By the way, I'm just wondering, Tyler, if there's been any commentary out of the White House with regards to the loss in Hungary of Viktor Orban as prime minister. He was serving there for 16 years. President Trump was a huge ally of his. He was also very closely allied with Vladimir Putin. And he was beaten, trounced, I think it's fair to say, by a newcomer, Peter Mayer. Has the White House said anything? Because, last week they sent J.D. Vance to campaign for him in Hungary.
That was going to be my exact point. The vice president last week was in Budapest, hitting the trail, if you will, to help bolster Viktor Orban's chances. This no doubt will mark a realignment of Hungary's relationship with the U.S. and a White House that has seen President Trump repeatedly endorse Viktor Orban over the course of what had been his 16 years in office.
Okay, so blockade is officially live. These different endorsements not really messing with the market. Nebius looks like she wants 158. This one's not stopping. Palantir back to 132. CoreWeave 113. I know Jose must be happy right now. Look at that. Let's do a poll on this, actually. Let's do a poll. Let's see kind of where the allocation is. And then we'll listen to Goldman Sachs CEO, see what he said on the call. But in terms of the neoclouds, given this is the sector that's running today, which one do you mainly own if you own any? So we got Nebius, we got CoreWeave, we got Iran, and then we'll do the other option, Oracle plus others. If YouTube allowed me a fifth option, I would say none of them, but YouTube does not. They should fix that because that would help me stream. YouTube really... There's so many things they could add for streamers. Oracle, give us 150. But I'll ask who doesn't own it after this one. Oracle resistance at 150. Let's see, 8% move, 150. I think it's going to be tough to get above it. No, it's 10,000 shares. 150's got nothing. 150's got nothing. SoFi 1664, Palantir 132, Nebius very close to 158. NVIDIA finally green on the day. There she goes, 188.60. Let's see if we can. Even Microsoft, nice little 2% day. It's been a while since we've seen it. 50% of you say Nebius, 18% say Iran, 14% say CoreWeave, Oracle. Okay, so Nebius is obviously the number one. Now I get why everyone wanted me to ring the damn bell. Now I get it. And CoreWeave is the lowest at 14. Bitcoin's moving too. Oh, if crypto comes back. Could you guys imagine if we see 80 on Bitcoin? If crypto... By the way, did you guys know Donald Trump lost $1 billion so far on Bitcoin? There's an article that came out this morning. I didn't know this. Apparently, his sons raised $1.4 billion in convertible notes using DJT as essentially the treasury company, Trump Media and Technology. And they bought Bitcoin at 119 with all of it. They just aped into it at 119, which was 5,000 away from the top. So he's down $1 billion on Bitcoin. So if there's anyone who's incentivized to like get Bitcoin to go up, I would imagine it's Trump. I know he's got a lot to deal with right now, but I mean, Bitcoin going up definitely would help him, like literally his net worth, because he's down $1 billion on it right now. Who knows? Maybe we see it come back. Iranian foreign minister. We've clarified that despite progress achieved in the negotiations, Washington prevented an agreement due to the changing of its demands. Okay, so the Iranian foreign minister coming out blaming the U.S. as expected. The Chinese speaker for their side of the representation in the dispute says the U.S.-Iran negotiation in Islamabad was a step towards de-escalation. China hopes the ceasefire will be kept. Disputes will be resolved through the political and diplomatic means rather than reigniting the flames of war, and the conditions will be created for an early return of peace to the Gulf. The root cause of disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz is the military conflict. To solve the issue, the conflict must stop as soon as possible. All parties need to remain calm and exercise restraint. Kind of crazy, bro. The Chinese are seeming like the rational guys here, saying, hey, everybody calm down. It'll be okay. They must be so happy. They're like, we know exactly what to do now when it comes to Taiwan. And if the U.S. tries to intervene, they're going to be like, well, when you guys did whatever you were doing in the Strait of Hormuz, we didn't intervene. We didn't try to like stop you. We didn't launch a war on you. I mean, this is going to be probably part of the bull case for Intel, but also one of those things we just can't ignore. Intel 64.55, best month since 2000 for 64 or for Intel, as that one breaks above 64. NVIDIA 189, Nebius, my goodness, she's ready to go to 116. Admit, I thought you wanted to visit China. That's not helping it. I do not think I will ever be allowed to go to China. Or I'll probably be allowed, but I'm definitely not going to try. I talk too much shit about them. But the Taiwan thing is real. We've talked about it for a long time. Like, it is a question of when, not if. And hopefully it's not in our lifetimes, but you know, they're looking at everything going on and saying, hey, maybe this gives us more opportunities to eventually do what we need to. I don't think they're going to do it when Trump's in office, though. I think they think Trump is crazy enough to wait until he's out of office. Nebius 160 has about 10,000 shares. We did not touch it. For those saying we touched it, is 159.50. We did not touch it. Maybe some of you guys saw it, but I don't see it on Webull. SMCI just flipped green as well. Bitcoin 72, NVIDIA 188. Oracle's very close to 150. Looks like Oracle and Nebius are both going for it at the same time. Leon, thank you for the super chat. I bought Nebius because of you. You brought it to my attention. Fortunately, I didn't sell anything. So happy. Congratulations. You know, part of the cool part of the stream is that even if I don't buy or get into every stock, the overall amalgamated information from the chat and Jason and Steve and Chris and all these people that bring ideas and Sam, you know, maybe it influences some people to take a shot on something and it works out sometimes. So awesome, awesome stuff. Congratulations. And, you know, I really didn't do any fundamental DD on Nebius. I followed a lot of other people over the past couple months that did. And that's how I gained my conviction for it. Oracle 150. We touched it. 150. Nebius did not hit 160 yet. It's close, but did not hit it. Oracle did touch 159% on Mr. Oracle. Palantir trying to get back above 132.50. Ondas up. SanDisk 914. 914. Admit the people love the new haircut. You know, it's actually not even a haircut. It's I just put some, it's not even gel. I just put some water in my hair. That's it. I just like put some water and just put my hands through it. That's really it. I didn't do anything. But I'm liking that people like this more than the GQ Al-Qaeda look. Even though I really do think if I kind of refine that look, it can be an epic look. Look at AppLovin up 7%. But this is much easier to manage, dude. I don't wake up. I don't have to wear a hat. I don't like, I just like put some water in my hair and that's it. I promise there's no gel. There's nothing in my hair. Like for the first time in a while, my hair is just like naturally adjusting itself. but I still do miss the GQ Al Qaeda look. Look at Amcor trying to go for 60. What a day, bro. Nokia above 10. Nvidia trying to break 190. Nebius going to the moon. Oracle making a move. Amcor. Amazon goes red. It would be nice for Amazon to go green. CrowdStrike almost back to 400. All of these software names are finally getting a little bounce. Look at IGV, 3%. I know it's got a long way to go, but if that's not a dead cat, we should see some momentum building on that. As long as Claude doesn't come out with some new thing tomorrow, which they probably will, but these software stocks have to become more resilient. Snowflake's up 5. Datadog's up. Is the copper trade back? Where is CopEx? CopEx 83 today. For the copper trade to be back, the silver and gold trade have to be back. I still fundamentally believe that copper, as much as there's a thesis there, it's not going to break out unless silver and gold go with it. I just don't trust that chart by itself. And I don't know if silver and gold are back. I mean, they peaked on January 30th. They really haven't gotten close to that peak since then. I mean, gold tried, got to like 5,100. Peak was 55. Silver peak was 130. It hasn't gotten back there. These are your top 5 companies: NVIDIA, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. TSMC is up there. You got Saudi Aramco. Broadcom back to number 8, 1.7 trillion. Meta, 1.5. Tesla, 1.3 in your top 10. So maybe we're still going to need some more momentum. Is Micron a buy? Probably, but I'm not buying it. I don't feel like I know enough about memory. I feel like I would have to sit with it for a few weeks and be obsessed with understanding memory before I buy it. Otherwise, I'm not going to have the conviction to hold it. But like, look, if you think this AI story goes on, Micron's not priced to keep growing at the level they're growing at, which means there's a discount there. Nebius, we did not touch 160. Palantir, did we get 133? We did we? Yes, we did. Dude, this thing got to 122 last week. There she goes. Back. Yeah, grab again. I still think it's getting hit because of those oil prices. I still think that's the main reason it's getting hit. We get a deal. I think a lot of these names that have traded against oil doesn't even have to go down. You just need the deal to make the market feel oil is going to go down. And your Ubers, your C Limiteds, your Grabs, all these names, I think that's when they get the bigger bounce. Also, you get into earnings season, so if they deliver good earnings, that'll help. Zeta shouldn't have been below $14. Like, $3 billion company, that's up 3% on the day. AAOI, that's bad. Oh, Citron's shorting this thing. I don't know if that short's going to work as easily, but he's gotten squeezed pretty heavily already on this. A potential deal is stopping me from selling covered calls. I agree, because look, I still haven't sold those Nebius covered calls, and I'm just like, okay, it's overbought, but what if we get a deal? Like, what if we think in the most optimistic sense, we actually get a deal in 2 weeks? Do we not think these stocks are going to get a little bit of a bigger boost, even if they're overbought? And maybe then you sell the call? So there is a world in which maybe, now again, I still have calls on my portfolio. It's just on some things that are super high flyers. Like, and in the NVIDIA calls of, it's still in a range. 180s, this thing is not, it has not gone nuclear like a Oracle did today, or like a, it hasn't had a 10% gap up day, or in the Nebius case, a 25% gap up a week. So I still think some of the Robinhood, right? If you're doing calls on Robinhood, you're doing great. Like, this thing is stuck between 68 and 75. But there's some of these, like these SanDisks, these Microns, these Nebises, these SaaS names where if they re-rate to the upside again, then maybe you kind of don't go heavy on it. Palantir right there, trying to go for 134. Trying to go for 134. Hollis says, what does Nokia even make right now? That's a good question. Let's go to Gemini. What does Nokia do, and why did NVIDIA invest in them? Because they don't make phones anymore. Nokia is a global leader in telecommunications infrastructure, specializing in 5G, 6G network equipment, cloud networking, industrial automation. NVIDIA invested $1 billion to partner aiming to accelerate AI-native 6G radio access networks by integrating NVIDIA's chips into Nokia's cellular infrastructure. That, along with the upgrade they got this morning, is why you're seeing Nokia get the bounce. I mean, basically, if you've invested in anything NVIDIA's invested in, Nebius, Lumentum, Coherent, Nokia, Intel, and CoreWeave, I mean, it's worked, right? Like, nothing NVIDIA's invested in has gotten destroyed. Or is there a stock I'm forgetting about that like hasn't done well? APLD, they invested in that. They made money on that. They sold all of it, but they made money on it. Navitas, yeah, no, Navitas took a haircut, but when they invested in it, Navitas moved up. So they've done well. GoPro's up 18% after hiring a guy to explore defense and aerospace imaging opportunities targeting durable, stabilized cameras, partnerships following prior use on Artemis 2. Huh. Okay, GoPro's a $150 million company. This thing was a meme stock back in 2023. It's 90 cents. They're probably going to get delisted soon if they don't get back over $1. But this one did have a lot of momentum a couple years ago when it was there. Yeah, SoundHound. I don't think they're in SoundHound anymore, but they did invest in them at some point. They didn't invest a lot, though. It wasn't like $1 billion or anything. I think it was like 10, 15 million or something. Nebby is still 158. Ondas 923. Lunar 2418. AppLovin at 420. Oh, it's not a guy. It's a consulting firm. Why do consulting firms name themselves after people? Like Kleiner Perkins, which is not a consulting firm. It's a VC firm, but like still. Oliver Wyman. Why is that a name of a consulting firm? Oliver Wyman. That sounds like a guy. A random. Maybe it's because that's what a typical consultant looks like. A dude named Oliver Wyman. What type of name is this? Or they probably just took the last names of the two founders and put them together or something. Yeah, law firms do that all the time. I guess it's not that crazy because hedge funds do that too. I mean, but it is like the cool like Bill Ackman's Pershing Square. That's cool because it makes it like, what is Pershing Square Capital? You know, it's cool versus Ackman Capital. Like that's so basic. Ackman Capital. Like, be a little creative here. 133.90. Let's see if Palantir breaks 134. What about AK Media? Okay, that's not an official company. Palantir needed to call me something 2 years ago on AIPCon, and I barely had any time to tell them. I was like, just call it AK Media. And it's stuck, but that's not, I don't actually have a company named AK Media. That's not a real thing, okay? Even though that is hilarious because it's basically the same thing. But it's not real. There's no LLC called AK Media. Like, it's not a real thing. It's just something that's stuck. Hegseth just said Indonesia and the U.S. are elevating their partnership to major defense cooperation. Okay. That's good. Seems like we're working with some of the Southeast Asian companies, or countries, probably because they're struggling with oil as well. What about Bloomberg? Okay, but Bloomberg is a cool name. Okay, so the caveat to what I'm saying is if you have a really cool name, you're allowed to name your firm after your name. But it has to be really cool. Like, it can't be John Smith. And then you start a VC fund called John Smith Ventures. It's like, dude, get out of here. But if your name is cool, like if your name is like if your name is like Matrix, I don't know who would name themselves Matrix, but like Matrix Capital, like that sounds cool, right? It's just not that many people are named Matrix, but like if you were, sounds kind of cool. But like Cucaracha Capital, like, dude, who's investing in that? No, like we're like Cucaracha Capital is crazy. Cucaracha Capital, like, we need something cooler. Yeah, JP Morgan sounds cool. It's a cool name. It sounds like wealth. JP Morgan. 70.60 on Rocket Lab. Yeah, Saint Laurent. Like, if your name is cool, your name is cool. If your name's not cool, then it doesn't work. Wow, S&P 680. My goodness. Talk about a reversal. Absolute reversal from the highs or from the lows. And we're holding on. Iranian foreign minister to the French foreign minister. Washington's approach based on excessive demands has failed the negotiations. We have made progress in the negotiation track with Washington on many issues. Okay, so the Iranians are telling the French that the U.S. is still demanding too much, which is okay because at least they're talking. Like the thing about everything we've talked about today is that there's conversations going back and forth, whether it's from Trump, whether it's the New York Post headline, whether it's the Iranian foreign minister, whether it's China talking to Pakistan. This idea that all communication has been cut off and there's not going to be any chance for a round 2 of negotiations, I feel like the probability on that is quite low, right? Like the probability seems a lot higher than not that they're going to get back in a room over the coming weeks and or at least get on the phone and try to figure out if there is a way they can negotiate. Oracle right there, breaking above 150. We even touched 151. Nebius has still not hit 160, but it's holding on to 155 and above. And then your S&P is still at 680. Okay. That's what you got. Dude, if Bitcoin actually comes back, that would be amazing. You would call it bottoms only LLC. You know? That's mean, but that's funny. But that is funny. Yeah, Jack Daniels. That's a hell of a name for whiskey. Jack Daniels. Like, you put 2 of those names together, it works. IGV up 4%, bro. Thank you. Getting a nice software bounce right here. We just got to keep it. We should not be going back to the absolute lows on software. Now, granted, maybe the market's just having amnesia about Anthropic, and if they come out with a new product, that's going to scare the market again. But still, it feels like it's too aggressive. Oh, by the way, speaking of Bill Ackman, he's officially taking Persian Square public. So people will be able to buy shares. He put out a letter this morning. They put out the S1. I have not gone through it. I'm very curious to go through the S1 and see what the offering is. But it is officially out. And it's going to be $50 a share. And you'll be able to invest with Bill Ackman in the public markets. I got to read the S1, but I still really don't get what the point of this is. It's basically a very condensed version of an ETF with a couple of companies that you're trusting Bill Ackman knows how to identify, which is fine if you love Ackman, but you could also just buy them yourself. Like, it doesn't feel like it's that necessary to invest in it. I'm looking at the S1 right now. They've secured about $3 billion already in commitments. They're investing $100 million themselves. And they're probably going to be looking to raise a bunch more once it officially goes live. Axon, that's up 4%. NASDAQ, are we getting a bounce? The Q's 612, a little bit of a bounce. I don't know the expense ratio on it yet, or not the ratio, but like the management fee. I would imagine it's similar to other funds, around 2%. But it's up there. S&P 679. A little bit of a red candle coming in. Don't see any major headline. That New York Post headline about enrichment ending in Iran was the biggest news of the day, and hopefully that sticks. Yeah, Bill Ackman, let's just pull up what he... By the way, we should be getting 13Fs pretty soon. Like, I think in 2 weeks, we should be getting all the 13Fs, and we'll see what people have been doing. The top 10 most bought stocks in Q4, or sorry, I should say Q1 because we're in Q1 right now. Now, this is only based on 13. Wow, interesting. This is only based on 13 disclosures of the 13Fs. I think in the next 2 to 3 weeks, by the end of April for sure, we're going to have all 85 of them. But out of the first 13, so take it with a grain of salt, Oracle's up there. ICON is up there. ICON is number 1. Oracle's number 2. Baxter International is number 3. Lennar, betting on home building, number 4. You got Treasuries from Vanguard, AVTR, Taylor Morrison Home Corp, another home company, DNOW, Toll Brothers, Nove, Oshkosh, Schlumberger, and Stellantis. So again, take it with a grain of salt because we don't have a ton of the disclosures yet. But you have home building, Oracle, and Stellantis that is up there. Now, Bill Ackman's fund, again, if you buy Pershing Square, you're essentially buying Brookfield, Uber, Amazon. As you can see right there, Google, Meta, Hilton Hotels, Hertz, HHH, Howard Hughes Holdings, which Ackman's trying to turn that into kind of like a Berkshire Hathaway to an extent. And then QSR, Restaurant Brands International, is what you're getting with Ackman. Icon is up 14% today. That's an energy company. Wow. Yeah, you're getting a move right there as well. Yeah, a lot of real estate plays. I mean, mortgage rates are still 6.5%. They haven't really come down. I mean, they were at 5.9, but then we had war. So that's what you're getting if you buy Pershing Square. I just don't see the need to pay Bill Ackman to do that. Like, I can buy all these stocks by myself, and really the only ones that matter are Google, Meta, Amazon, and Uber. Realistically, it's Google, Meta, Amazon are the only things that matter on this list. So I'm going to be really curious why retail buys this thing. Maybe because he has a stake in Universal Music, but like these arbitrary smaller stakes he takes in other companies, like trying to get exposure to that through Pershing Square just feels unnecessary. Like, unless you really, really, really want exposure to it. It's not like he has Anthropic or anything, you know? It's like a smaller version of a NASDAQ ETF with 3 of the biggest S&P 500 names. Micron about to go green, potentially. New York Post reporter clarifies Iran is still considering U.S. proposal, not new reporting based on known Vance statements from Sunday. None of this is new. This is why I don't trust people named Caitlin, okay? This is why you can't trust people named Caitlin. Why is she mad about this, though? Look at that. She's like walking back her statement. This took off unnecessarily, and now I have a responsibility to clarify. No, you have a responsibility to put out the news and let the market do what it wants. Okay? Okay, Caitlin? Just enjoy the attention you're getting. Like, you pumped our bags. You don't have to be upset about it. It's not illegal. The proposal centered on Iran giving up its nuclear program that we knew from Vice President J.D. Vance on Sunday. It's still a possibility that Iran could accept that point. So basically, she's saying, I put out an article that said Iran is considering the proposal because J.D. Vance said that Iran is considering the proposal. But what I said was Iran is still thinking of giving up uranium enrichment, which technically is still considering the proposal. And logically, if the number one sticking point of considering a proposal is thinking of giving up uranium enrichment, then obviously if we're still considering, that is the number one thing that we are considering, which is giving up uranium. So she's not wrong, but I don't know why she thinks she has to clarify, because essentially she got away with a tweet that took off and the markets interpreted the way the markets interpreted it. But she's not lying here. Like, if she's saying Vance said Iran is still considering it, and so I extrapolated from that statement and said, oh, what are they considering? Well, obviously, the number one thing that Vance said we were talking about is uranium enrichment, then I can report Iran is still considering uranium enrichment. It's just the way she said it and the virality of it is what I guess potentially pumped the markets. And maybe we see a sell-off now if the markets think that's not legit, but then again, she didn't say anything factually wrong. She's just upset that it took off. But I'm like, if you're a journalist, shouldn't you want it to take off? Like, this is what you've been waiting for. You've been waiting for like these moments where everyone cares about what you have to say. So, I mean, this just means we can't trust people named Caitlin anymore. Let's see if the markets actually sell it off. I mean, it does make sense, bro. Basically, she's like, she's essentially apologizing, saying she shouldn't have framed it as Iran is thinking of something new. She's just restating what Vance said, which Vance literally said, yeah, you know, both parties are still thinking about it. which essentially means the US is thinking about sanctions, Iran is thinking about uranium enrichment, but the market interpreted this thing as real. And I guess that's what caused the pump. New York Post foreign policy national secretary reporter, undergrad, KU journalism. She has a master's, defense and strategic studies. Yeah, she's really upset that this is taking off. Look at that. She's retweeted a guy who's saying this is so stupid that people are assuming that this is new. I think she's doing the wrong thing career-wise. I would be running with this, bro. Like, why are you upset? Like, you didn't report anything false. You reported the news. You just spelt it out. All the other headlines weren't spelling out uranium enrichment. You spelt it out, which you're not wrong about because that is the thing that they're probably considering. And the markets ran with it. Like, it is what it is. In all seriousness, though, she probably shouldn't have tweeted that. Like, I'm joking here, but she probably should. I mean, like, it was framed as if it's something new, which, like, technically what she said was not, like, illegal or wrong, but I understand why she's upset that it took off. But, like, then why tweet it? Like, you thought, like, no one was listening? Today, people decided to listen. You're part of the New York Post. Like, if you thought you're, as a journalist, you have no sway or influence, well, guess what? Today you do. And so maybe you have to be even more careful. Like, if I tweeted that shit, it would be crazy because I'm not associated with any media company or what sources do I have? No sources, right? So I can't just be like, oh, I was just re-quoting what Vance said. Like, that would be really bad because, like, I'm not associated with a media entity that is known for accurately reporting stuff. Unless I legit had a source. And unfortunately, you know, my Iranian brothers don't pick up my phone calls because they're worried about the security risks about it. So I don't have any sources. But Michael Burry, he bought 2 new stocks. So number one, he bought more shares of Adobe. Okay, so he's buying more Adobe. Number two, he bought ASDK Autodesk. Interessante. Autodesk. And then he bought, let me pull this up. Autodesk right there up 2%. He bought VEEV, Viva Systems, right? This one almost got into the S&P 500 2 months ago. Viva Systems, 155, that's up 3%. Okay, so he bought Autodesk and Viva Systems. Viva's actually a legit, like, this is an AI name, right? System software, or it's like been seen as an AI name. Year to date, it's down 30%. Okay, he's buying software. He's buying the dip on software. Viva's down 30 this year. Autodesk this year, this is pure software. I don't think this has an AI narrative to it. Down 22%. And then Adobe, we all know about Adobe's down. Okay, there you go. He's buying software. So you got Burry thinking it's funny though, because if he's buying software, but then he's bearish Palantir. I mean, if Palantir has the best software earnings in the market, and Burry's only reason for shorting it is valuation. Again, if it was easy to short Palantir on valuation, everyone would have shorted it. Same thing for Tesla. If these names were purely shortable due to expensive price to earnings ratios, everyone would do it. So if you think software is going to bounce, do we not think Palantir is going to participate in that bounce? Especially if they crush earnings? That is going to be, by the way, he also disclosed he bought 110 puts on NVIDIA for January 2027. So he's thinking NVIDIA falls all the way back down to the low hundreds, which I don't see that happening, bro. I mean, put in the chat if you really think there's a decent chance NVIDIA goes down to the low 100s. I mean, there is a chance. I do not think we are seeing 110 on it. We are not erasing $2.5 trillion of market cap when Anthropic is growing revenue by 11 billion every month. Like, just doesn't make a lot of sense. AMD going red now on the day. And if that does happen, this is why the Burry thing is so confusing. If NVIDIA collapses 50% from here, we're talking about the collapse of not only the stock market, but one would have to argue the collapse of global markets and the US economy. Like something would have to happen for that type of a drawdown. Now, maybe there's a DeepSeek moment that is legit and it's not actually DeepSeek and it's like a real concern. And all of that money leaves NVIDIA and it goes into other stuff. But given the sheer amount of funds and indices and 401ks and retirement accounts and passive ETFs that hold NVIDIA, the level of selling would have to be so exaggerated and there would have to be a real catalyst. And that catalyst can't be NVIDIA missed earnings by 5%, which they're not going to do. And I would imagine the Microns of the world collapse, the Palantirs collapse, Broadcom collapses, Google, Amazon probably get a 20, 30% hit. Like, I don't see that happening. And so a lot of it just feels like fear-mongering from him. Like if he had 150, 160, 170 puts, even 140, I'm like, okay, maybe that get 100. Really? It's going to collapse by 50% in 8 months? I mean, again, maybe, but it just feels aggressive. NATO allies said on Monday they would not get involved in Trump's plan to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. Britain and France refused to join the blockade. Macron proposes multinational missions, as per Reuters. Okay, Trump did say some NATO allies would support, so I wonder which one is going to happen. Do you think AMD could be 600 by 2028? No. I think that's a little too aggressive in 2 years, but by 2030, 2031, 2032, if they keep catering at the rate of growth that... Look, I mean, if they do 20 bucks of EPS, you put your 30 multiple, you get there. So if you believe Lisa Su that they're going to get to that level of growth, then yeah. Now, I think 2028 is a little aggressive, but maybe end of 2028, early 2029, there's a shot that it gets up there. Now, remember, they give up 10% of the company to OpenAI, and they give up, is it another 10% to Meta at 600? I think it's 10% to Meta and to OpenAI. So at 600, the convertibles that Meta and OpenAI bought for like a penny of a penny convert into stock. So there's definitely an incentive there. But it all depends on when it can get that 20 bucks of EPS. Wall Street Journal, 15 U.S. warships deployed in the region to support the naval blockade on Iran. All right, the ships are officially coming through. And the blockade is beginning. TSM, we got earnings this week, 371. That is green. Is Nike going back to 100 soon? I personally have some doubts on that. I also don't think you can logically buy Nike at a 29 PE when everything else in tech is trading below that. Like, it's hard to be attracted to Nike here. Also, the brand, bro. It just feels like the brand is less relevant. That's why they're struggling in China, and you're seeing some broader issues inside of the DTC ecosystem. Let's get an update on Goldman. Get some analysis on why this thing is down 4%.
The firm's FIC business, comprising fixed income, currencies, and commodities trading and financing, that business missed estimates by nearly $1 billion due to lower revenue from trading rates, mortgages, and credit. FIC financing, which also includes providing leverage to private credit funds, was actually higher in the quarter. Provisions set aside for losses were also up on a combination of higher activity and impairments in specific credits. Wells Fargo's Mike Mayo notes that this increase in provisions within global banking and markets was the highest since 2020.
I do think we all have to recognize that this has been a very long credit cycle, and when credit cycles go on longer, market participants, this is a generalization, this is not the way we think about the business, but spreads get tighter, market participants get more aggressive to deploy capital. And so when you do have a cycle turn in a recession, you will see higher losses across the space than you would have had if it was a shorter cycle. And so we have to be cognizant of that.
Solomon said that private credit continues to be a, quote, attractive platform, but not a huge growth channel for them in the medium to longer term. He expects to be that there will be continued noise around the retail space, something they haven't been as susceptible to because their funds are more institutional in focus. Solomon noted that sponsor or private equity infrastructure real estate activity has been a bit slower than they'd expect, but the firm still posted a record in its global banking and markets division. That was largely thanks to equities trading and prime financing and the closing of mergers Goldman had helped manage that led to an 89% jump in advisory revenue in the quarter, guys.
What do we think? I mean, yes, they missed on fixed income. Some of their trading revenues were down, but they grew EPS freaking 25%. Goldman down 4% on the day. How much is Goldman down on the year? I don't know if the other banks are going to easily follow that. Goldman's down 4% this year, just based on fixed income. Credit loss provisions weren't even that bad. It was only up 9%. I mean, JP Morgan, they crushed their provisions losses last quarter. If they continue to, be relatively conservative and still not meet those thresholds, I mean, EPS should be up. It should be up nicely. And all the banks are buying back their stock. They all increased their dividend. They all passed the stress test from 2 months ago. Like, the reason the banks matter is because obviously if the banks fall, it kind of is an indication for tech. But I don't know if this Goldman thing is emblematic of all the banks getting hit. Bitcoin right there, 71.9 on the day. Why are people talking about XRP in the chat? Who even put XRP? Who even put that ticker in the chat? Do people still care about this thing? I should ask. Steve has not talked about this thing in so long. Steve's cost basis is like 20 cents, but he will never buy more. And, there might be a reason for that. I don't think he's willing to pay $1.30. Or at the time, it was $3 when he was excited about XRP. Like, don't stable coins just get rid of the whole point of XRP? Like, XRP was cross-border payments done on a blockchain with real-time settlement. Isn't that the whole point of stablecoin? Like, I'm probably condensing XRP down a lot. Look at Circle up 9% today. But I would imagine the stablecoin solves the use case. Unless I'm totally getting what XRP is in the wrong way. Lululemon shares drop as Texas AG opens investigation into the company. The investigation will focus on whether Lululemon's athletic apparel contains PFAS or, quote, forever chemicals. What? Lulu's being investigated by the Texas Attorney General. Okay, let's go to Gemini. What is PFAS, forever chemicals? Does anyone know what that is? A group of thousands of man-made forever chemicals developed in the 1940s that resist water, grease, and heat. They are called forever chemicals because they do not break down in the environment or the human body, leading to bioaccumulation and widespread contamination. Well, Lulu has already had a horrible year, horrible earnings. Not really a lot. The stock got kicked out of the S&P 500. These are fabrics that cause cancer. Okay, well, that's not a good thing. That is not a good thing. Damn, bro. Out of all the things Lulu could get hit on, it's not that their marketing's not going well, not that people aren't buying the new jackets. It's that their clothes can kill you. Like, what a freaking headline, dude. I mean, I'd probably stop shopping somewhere if their clothes might kill me. That would not be fun. Nebius 157, TSM 371. Uber still up 1.2%. Semi-analysis reports NVIDIA has been in talks for more than a year to buy a large PC-focused company in a deal it says could reshape the PC and server landscape. No target was named, and there was no confirmation a deal will happen. Dell and HP are potentially seen as candidates. Look at Dell, 5%. Is that on that report? That is crazy. That came out. When did this report come out? NVIDIA doesn't own Dell, right? Yeah, NVIDIA doesn't have any Dell. This report came out about 30 minutes ago, looks like. HPE and Dell, maybe that's the candidate there. HPE getting a green candle as well. I mean, look, for NVIDIA, it makes sense. If they are getting back into the CPU game, which Jensen has been very clear about, then, I mean, also Dell. Dude, people forget, Dell beat revenue expectations last quarter by $17 billion. Like this, I know their margins are bad, but I mean, how can we be bearish this broader AI sector when you're seeing companies like Dell that are not really seen as like the sexiest companies out there that are beating by that wide of a margin? And so you would imagine NVIDIA might help support that. S&P 679, Oracle holding 150 very nicely. Palantir 133. Could you guys imagine if NVIDIA takes an equity stake in AMD? I wonder if Lisa Su would be happy with that. Because it would be such a flex by Jensen if he actually does it. But if they're talking about CPU growth, it might actually be like not a bad idea. Right? Because it's I mean, AMD is the leader in CPUs. So maybe there's a world where that takes place. Let's see what other updates. Aren't they cousins? Yes, they are. That's like a real thing, right? That's not just a rumor. I think they are legit cousins. Lisa and Jensen. Which is kind of crazy, dude. Talk about the most successful cousins in history. Like that's I mean, two cousins create two multi-$100 billion companies. It's pretty wild. Okay, let's see what else do we got. Second cousins still counts. It's in the family. 133.28 right here on Palantir. Trying to see if there's any more updates from. I want to like, what is this Caitlin chick tweeting about? Let's see if she's still upset. Caitlin Dornbos is her name. Doornbos. Dornbos. She's responding to some people. Let's see what she's saying, because this is the headline that literally framed the entire market. Someone says, I don't think that happened. Caitlin says, it's concerning that no one seems to actually know for sure who that final decision maker even is. How do you negotiate with a ghost? If uranium was the issue, why is Trump blockading the Strait to pressure Iran to give it up? Iran will likely sign an agreement soon, but we should be realistic. 40 years of enmity can't disappear overnight. She says she agrees. Yeah, I mean, this is the headline that changed the morning. This thing right here from Miss Caitlin. Yeah, I thought her name was Doorknob, bro. See, that would have been a cool name. It's Dornbos. Doorknob would have been cooler, bro. Doorknob Capital. There you go. Legit. You open the door to wealth. Dude, that was good. That was freaking good. That's what we need from her name. But it's just spelled in a different way. Let me reshare this. This is the update on oil right now.
That's according to Tanker Tracker. Now, OPEC releasing its monthly report this morning, showing a record 7.88 million barrels per day drop in production last month, led by Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Kuwait. Aramco's east-west pipeline that ends in Yanbu and the UAE's pipeline that runs to Fujairah have been key for making up for some of those lost barrels, but they do not cover everything. It's important to remember that while the U.S. is the world's largest energy producer and a net exporter, we still rely on imports for key markets and products, including oil itself. We export about 4 million barrels per day of sweet domestic shale and import about 6.2 million barrels per day of heavy sour crude. The majority of that comes from Canada and Mexico, but about 8% is from the Middle East. And on the product side, the East and West Coast are most exposed, with gasoline coming from countries including South Korea, which has implemented export restrictions. Now, oil is well below the highest levels overnight, which saw WTI hit 105.63. Brent front month is now trading just shy of 101, I should say. And on Friday, dated Brent, which is for immediate delivery, priced at $100 and $126. That is according to S&P Global Energy. And guys, again, speaks to that disconnect between the physical and the paper markets.
Okay, Pippa, thank you. We'll turn to the equity markets now.
Okay, not the worst updates on oil. Where's crude? Palantir 133. Crude is at 102. It's still up from 101, but down from 105. We need this thing to get back down to 100. Is there a website, guys, where we can track the traffic in real time? There's got to be some website that's... Oh, there is. Okay, there's a couple. Because now I want to see when the U.S. Navy blockade comes through, what is that going to look like in regards to You can use Palantir. I wish my AIP developer account. Let me pull that up. Iran declares maximum combat alert amid escalating tensions. Okay. I guess we're going to see more aggression. Okay, so this is what Doug just sent. You're supposed to be monitoring the situation. How do you not know about the website? Honestly, that's a good point. But usually, you track it through like these articles that frame them. You don't. Dude, this is crazy. Okay, I did not know. You can literally click on any of these and see the exact, it's a vessel, it's a bulk carrier. Oh, this just made my monitoring the situation even better, dude. Holy crap. This is crazy. Look at that. Wow. Wait, so where's the Strait? Where is the Strait exactly? The Strait should be over here, right? Near the Middle East, but above Southeast Asia. Here, let me try to pull up the exact Strait and see what it looks like. I'll put the link right here in the chat. That's actually really cool. That's crazy that we have this much exposure. You don't know where Iran is? I'm looking for it, okay? There's a lot of freaking sprinkles on the chart. It all looks like sprinkles back and forth. It's not that I don't know where Iran is, bro. It's just that this is not like your typical map. Like, there's a lot of shit going on this screen, okay? Goodness. Okay, hold on. Dude, there's a lot of stuff to manage here. I'm trying to monitor this situation and pull it up. It's not a typical map because they've stretched out the entire Earth on this thing. You talk about a flat Earth. This map is basically that. Okay, so you're definitely not seeing as many ships in that area. What about searching on it? Yeah, but hold on. This is the first time I'm ever even using this website. So I'm trying to see if you can search to different parts of it. Let's pull up vessels. Okay, let me share this first. Let's see where this is. Look at the snip I sent you in WhatsApp. Just finished my 13 miles. Random hero. I appreciate you having me in your ear for 13 miles. That is really cool. Okay, so this is where Doug is pushing me to go here. Again, S&P still at 679. Trump appears, okay, Trump deleted the post last night of himself as Jesus, which there was a post of himself as Jesus, or what it seemed like Jesus. Apparently he deleted that. We're getting that update right now as well. Which, I don't know, that definitely pissed off a lot of people. Definitely pissed off a lot of people. Okay, so this is where we're trying to find this Strait. This is right above Southeast Asia. See what I'm saying? It's not as easy to just see where exactly the Strait is. Bro, where is it? You guys are saying it's so easy to see it. Where exactly do you freaking see it? Left of India? Where the hell did India go? That's South America. That's Africa. That's Australia. I might actually be retarded, bro. I really can't I just genuinely. Oh, there's India. There's India. See, it didn't have any colors on India. Okay, so now where's the freaking strait above it? You guys are typing too fast. This chat's moving too quick. You're giving me freaking... I'm dead ass. Where is this freaking... Where is this strait? You would think I've looked at the Strait of Hormuz enough the past few months. There's India in the center. Okay, which center are you guys? Oh, there's Qatar. Is that it right there? That little triangle. That's... Dude, I genuinely don't see it. I don't care what people say about me, right? I really don't see it. Strait of Hormuz on the Persian Gulf. If Qatar is right there, that's it? Why are you saying that's it? Close, that's it? Okay, so there's Qatar. Now, where is the damn strait? You guys are typing too fast. I don't know. You like the idea that I could read all these comments and easily see it. Dude, I'm on Google Image. I'm trying to compare it. It's hard to see it on this freaking thing. There's the strait on Google. Okay, you see that? And then I'm trying to see it on this map, and it's not the easiest thing. To the right of Saudi. See, I should be able to just search the country and easily find it. Or search the strait and it should come up. I blame Doug for sending me this link, dude. Just... I genuinely don't see it, bro. You were right there. That's not helping when you say I'm right there. Like, I don't freaking see it. I don't care what people say. I don't see it. There's Qatar. Now, where's the freaking strait? Okay, if we stop right here, you're looking at it. Where? Where am I looking at? Is this it? Like this emptiness in the gray? Lower edge of Iran. Iran is, there's Oman. There's, oh, hold on. There's Iran. Oh, shit. This is it, right? This right here. This right here, right? Right? Correct? Yeah, now I see Iran. Right there, the tippy top. Wait, no, oh, there it is. There it is right there. This thing right here. This is it. Where it says Bandar Abbas, that's your strait. Right? Right? You were just there on the right. Okay, so right there, that's our strait. Yeah, there it is. Bandar. Okay, that's what I was saying. Dude, that's what I told you guys. You guys were like not agreeing with me for so long. I'm sorry. I had to look at Cactus sending me freaking Strait of Hormuz pictures to help out. Oh, why didn't you guys say Bandar Abbas? That's all you had to freaking say, and I would have seen it. Everyone's freaking putting laughing emojis like that's going to help me. Like, no. Like, no one could have said Bandar Abbas. I'd be like, oh, there it is. Okay, so right there, oh, the thing that says Hormuz Island probably would have helped too. Okay. Okay, so as you can see on this picture, based on monitoring the situation, there's very few sprinkles, we'll call them green, blue, red. But if you zoom out, you see if we scroll down, there's more green, there's more blue, there's more red, there's more vessels, there's more tankers. But if you go to the Strait of Hormuz, which is near Bandar Abbas, for all the people that can't see it, freaking idiots, it's right in front of you. You know, that's where you got it. As you can see, I'm dumb as fuck. Look, I'm a little dense, okay? I mean, so anyone will tell you when they come to visit me in New York, I'm not good with directions, bro. I'm not the best with directions. I'm worse than not. Like when we have to travel around New York, I'm not really in the best spot. But whatever. It's closer than not on this. Where is the S&P? Palantir almost 134, S&P 679. See, it's so nice to just like track stock prices because they either go up or they either go down. You're not freaking scrolling across essentially a flat earth on this website to try to track the Strait of Hormuz. Doug says, look at the beeline, the red tankers they are making to the Gulf of America. Well, I'm curious also when the naval blockade comes in and what that looks like when you see, wow, Oracle 151, when you see the naval blockade on the screen itself, or if you see the maritime traffic kind of stopped by that naval blockade. And I guess in the next few hours, we'll see what plays out. Yes, I get it now. The whole thing is the Strait. I get it. I'm looking at the picture as well. I didn't see it, bro. What do you want me to do? Like, I didn't freaking see it. Iranian Parliament of Energy says a member of the Iranian Parliament's Energy Committee said on Monday that a proposed parliamentary bill on the security of the Strait of Hormuz could change transit regulations in the Persian Gulf. Jalil Mukhtar said the draft legislation titled the Strategic Action for the Security of the Strait of Hormuz aims to redefine passage rules through the key waterway. Okay. I mean, if that's the case, then that, I mean, it kind of grants a little bit of credibility to what the New York Post reporter was saying, even though she wasn't saying anything new. But maybe there's a world in which that changes into a new direction, or at least where the markets feel there's a chance to price in a greater chance of cooperation. Oracle 151, Robinhood is 70. Amit has finding straight places is crazy. Amit has trouble finding straight places is absolutely insane. Like legit insane. Yes, white is the land, gray is, you're saying white is the water. No, white is the land, gray is the water. And you're barely seeing any traffic right there on this. That is kind of good, though. The Gay of Hormuz was good, but Amit has trouble finding straight stuff is even, that was better. Adobe, 5%. Okay, you guys tell me white is the water, but then 3 comments above, someone says white is the land. So at this point, I'm blaming you guys. Like I'm not gonna freaking, if like 15 comments say white is the water, and then it's like, no, white is the land. At this point, it's just confused. Stick to green and red. This is the worst thing ever, and this is all because of Doug. If he hadn't sent me this stupid freaking website, we wouldn't have had to find this. Because they're trolling you, white is the water. Well, see, this is what comes with the territory. Like, if you're going to deal with the trolls, you're going to be embarrassed in public. Iranian Defense Ministry, any military intervention by foreign powers in the security of the Strait of Hormuz would escalate the crisis and instability in global energy security. Okay. Now I get it, bro. Now I see what the Strait looks like. Like, now you see this like curvature thing. Now it easily looks like the actual, like it looks like freaking this picture right here. Thank you, Cactus, for sending that. Okay, it took a minute. Sometimes it takes a minute, but you know. Dude, honestly though, but seriously, I'm not, like, ask Tanner or Roy when they came with me to New York. I'm not good with directions. Like, when it comes to navigating stuff visually, like I'm really not the best at it. And like, I've been to New York my whole life. Like, I should be better at it, but I get like lost in the subway and stuff like that. So now, granted, when you're in front of a lot of people and you can't find the Strait, it's embarrassing to say the least, but at least I have a justification for it. I thought I would have seen it earlier though, because I've been looking at a picture of the Strait for the past month and a half. So I didn't think it would be that hard. But that website was just a little weird, bro. Like, there was so much moving back and forth. I had to go to the Bronx. I ended up in Brooklyn once. I was so late for a meeting. It was so bad. I was like, I'm sorry. I just like, it was a while ago, but I'm not the best with directions. Red and green is what I'm used to. IGV getting a nice 5% bump. You're getting some more momentum. Palantir very close to 135. Micron almost green. Again, the Iranians putting out these statements that they're like more aggressive or that we're not going to open up the Strait. I mean, sure, but the market does not care about that. Market's not necessarily pricing that in as anything that's problematic. Iranian Defense Ministry, Trump will fail in any attempt to interfere militarily in the Strait of Hormuz and the Sea of Oman. Which is, again, what they're supposed to say. Yeah, thank goodness for FSD. It's absolutely been a game changer. The Bronx and Brooklyn are in opposite directions. I know that now, for sure. The blue and the gray threw you off? Yes. Thank you, True North Living Co. At least someone. You know what? We're going to do a poll on this real quick. Dude, how is it already 12 o'clock? How much time did we spend on that whole Strait of Hormuz treasure hunt that we just did? Last 20 minutes on that shit? There's no way. Okay, let's see. The question is, do you have any sympathy for me not finding the Strait on that map? I know I spelled sympathy wrong. I don't care. It's not a big deal. We don't have to be perfect on that. Let's see. Let's see how much of you guys are loyal, bro. How much are loyal? You figured out your hair, so there's hope. Dude, I found Palantir. That's all that matters. Yes. But the only reason I found Palantir was because there was philosophy involved. You know, if there was some philosophy to the Strait of Hormuz or something philosophical, maybe I would have found it easier on the map. So if you give me something rooted in philosophy or a good story, there's a better chance of finding it. NVIDIA still red, but very close to green. Palantir 134. I know I spelled it wrong. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You guys know what I'm trying to say. Rocket Lab still below 70. How many people voted yes? Let's see if I can get 20%. Look at that. 32% of loyal viewers, baby. Those are the people that are legit. Those are the people that I can go get a drink with, dude. Those are the folks that have my back. The rest you got, I don't know. Everyone says it was easy to find it. I wonder how easy it would have been to find it. You had to do it live. Credo, 10% pump. App Lovin', 7% pump. Datadog up 3%. Snowflake up 7%. All right, so SAS is still intact. Semis are still intact. Cruise lines, airlines are red. Mag 7 slightly red, most of them green. Palantir holding up. Robinhood holding up. FinTech coming back. I mean, it's a relatively strong day, but it's, I think, quite literally based on the New York Post headline, which even after the clarification of it not being new news, might be enough to hold us up. Maybe. Those are all paid subs. Well, the good thing is we don't have paid subs on the channel, so I mean, you can pay to support it, but there's no like actual paid sub. So, and it's not bots. Dude, YouTube, honestly, like if this was YouTube Live is the one platform that doesn't have bots. There might be some bot, but like YouTube has done a very good job. Like there are people that go live and they will have 20 people watching, right? You would want YouTube to like push like 1,000 people to make them feel like, oh my God, I have this audience, blah, blah. But they don't, right? Like X will tell you have 50,000 people watching, which is why I can't stream on X, because it's all BS. Like it's not real. Like everyone was like, oh, TBPN gets 70,000 live viewers. It's like, no, they don't. Their tweets get impressions above 70,000. Those are not people live watching. So, you know, use that as justification for OpenAI buying them, which I don't really think they cared about the metrics. It was a different reason for why they bought them. That's not the metric you can use. Like those are not real live viewers. YouTube is like legit. Twitch has a lot of bots because people can buy live viewers on Twitch for you. I think they can do that on YouTube, but it's not as prominent because YouTube is not as big of a streaming platform as Twitch. So all of this to say, The 32% who voted, I would assume, are not bots. Rumble, I don't even know who still watches Rumble, to be honest. Kick is filled with bots as well. Although Kick pays really well. But I don't know. Maybe Rumble doesn't have bots. I just don't know how many people are super active on Rumble. That 32% is your non-straight viewers. I love that it's called the Strait of Hormuz. That has given us so many jokes. The headline was Iranians are looking forward to potentially discussing getting rid of their enrichment program. And that was enough to literally, when that headline went viral, pump everything up. And the pump is sticking for now until the market decides that it was a fake headline, which maybe it happens today, but if not, OSS up 8, Rocket Lab. I mean, some of these stocks have given back their gains. Rocket Lab was at 71. Now it's at 69. But some of these are chugging long. Nebius, we're at 158. Nebius back to 155 from 159. Can't be too upset still about that. Yeah, AMD finally flipping green. Very close to. AMD is going back to 260, dude. This thing should have never fell to 195. Like, it's obviously NVIDIA is cheaper when you look at their forward growth, but that's because NVIDIA is growing more. But it's not like AMD is not important. Same thing with Broadcom. Did you invest that $35,000 in your retirement? Yes, I invested everything on Wednesday, the day after the ceasefire. At least everything in that retirement account. So the day after that ceasefire was announced, I just threw it in, which basically was Google 300, Meta 600, Broadcom 320, Oracle was 140. Robinhood was like 69. Palantir was actually about Palantir at 140, so Palantir's still down on that buy. But I guess we'll see if that one ends up playing out. Microsoft 380. Microsoft finally getting a little bit of a bid. Finally, as that one's up. Intel's up 70% this year. My goodness, dude. 70%. Well, thanks to Tanner clipping this segment, today has absolutely been a greeny green day. S&P goes greeny green. Greeny green. S&P goes greeny green. Greeny green. Dude, I have a nice falsetto. Tell me that's not a nice falsetto. Forget being able to look at a map. I need to go to UMG and get a record deal, bro. That's what needs to happen. Forget this streaming shit. I need to freaking become an international pop sensation. You're not telling me a little bit of coaching could get that shit to make some music? Some pop star singles? Could you imagine me on MTV? Dude, forget the stock market. Like, I need to go get famous. I need to go become a superstar. That's what we need to do. You're still in your MJ phase. No, but tell me that's not a real. Not everyone can get to that falsetto. Like, that's like a. It's like a legit. Like, I need to hire a vocal coach and see what we can do. Maybe there's some real potential. Grab going green. Palantir still trying to get to 134. Micron still down, but not as bad as it was early on. All right, so I think that's it. I don't think we have anything else to cover. SPY's green, SAS is green, Tech is green. Goldman's down. I think it's a little unwarranted, but we'll see if that affects the rest of the banks. We have TSM coming up in a couple of days. We have Netflix on Thursday. We'll have a market close today. We'll see what we've got going on. The Iranian headline about reconsidering their enrichment program was proven to be false, but not literally false. It was technically false, but technically our portfolios went up, so I don't know how much it matters. And I guess we'll see by the end of the day if that pump continues. We don't have ASML this week, right? ASML is next week, I think, for earnings. Oh no, it's this week. It's Wednesday. Oh, okay. So ASML, that's going to be a big one as well. ASML has had a monster move. Year to date, up 27%. So ASML, TSM, and Netflix. Let's do a poll on that before we leave. How many people own those three? I think a lot more people own Netflix than they did a year ago because of that 70s dip we got. Do you own any of these? So ASML, Netflix, and then what's the other one? TSM. A combo of all three. Dude, we really need 5 options on this thing. Instead of doing a combo, I'm going to say none because that's easier than a combo. So I guess if you own a combo of them, then just click on the one you own the most of as your vote. 70% of you say none. 18% say ASML. 22% say Netflix. 14% say TSM. Okay, so still will be a big day for earnings, or a big week for earnings as we officially get into it. Did it really take 10 minutes to find the Strait of Hormuz, dude? Did it really, like... You guys were typing so fast. It's like I couldn't even keep up with one person like telling me where to go. So it's like I couldn't, but we got it. We got there. After 20 minutes, we got there. So now, okay, so now we at least have a good source, and I'll link that website again for people to see, because this will be important when the Navy blockade officially is live, what that traffic looks like beyond the Strait from there. All right, cool. That is it. That is it. You've only been covering for like 3 weeks. Yeah, I thought I would more easily see it, but I don't know. Website was a little harder to read. We'll be back on the close, and it'll be a big week for these earnings. Hopefully by the close we hold up, but it's nice to see Sask at the rebound. It's nice to see Sask at the rebound. That's the most important thing. And we just have to see if we can keep up that rebound. Word of the day. What do we got? What do we got? Recalcitrant. Recalcitrant. Okay, recalcitrant. Recalcitrant. That's what I'm going with. Stubbornly resistant to authority, control, or change. The stock remained recalcitrant despite strong earnings. It just wouldn't move. Okay, let's see how to pronounce this. Recalcitrant is what I'm going with.
Recalcitrant.
Okay, that makes up for the Strait of Hormuz debacle. There you go. There you go. Recalcitrant, stubbornly resistant to authority, control, or change. Hopefully the United States and Iran are not as recalcitrant, and we get maybe a deal that can get us out of this whole mess over the past month. I do have a nice falsetto, dude. I see you guys saying it. Like, your boy has that falsetto. Like, it's there. It really, really is there. We just have to nurture it now. Goes greeny green. Greeny green. S&P goes greeny green. Greeny green. S&P. Wait, this every time we have a nice green day, that's gotta be the sound. That's gotta be the sound that we play. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the market close. Have a good one. See you guys in a few hours. Bye, everybody.